I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. The next regular scheduled meeting of the Board of Supervisors will take place Friday, March 4th, 2022 at 9 a.m. at the Community Center, 3500 Edgewater Drive, Sebring, Florida, 33872. I'd like to ask you all now to please silence or turn off your cell phones. Okay, we'll start with the consent agenda. We have 4 listings there. I'll just run through them quickly if anybody has any comments.
Okay, no, I won't.
Oh, we have
Mr.
to do
President,
a motion to,
I need to do a roll call vote to confirm the supervisors that are here today.
oh, we do that now? Okay,
Yes, please. Supervisor Phillips, Supervisor Herrick,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Here,
President Brooks.
Yes.
Thank you.
On the consent agenda, is the minutes for January 7th, any comments or? We do them all together and then do a final? Minutes for January 21st, any comment, and a motion for that?
Move to approve.
second,
Any comments? Motion for the meeting, the regular meeting on February the 4th. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
second,
Any comments? The Board of Supervisors Landowners meeting held February 4th, the minutes on that. Do I have a motion?
motion,
Any comments? Okay. I'm sorry now, do we vote or are we good?
You open for public comment on those.
Oh, anybody have public comments on any of these meeting notes or agendas? Any other comment from the board?
Supervisor Herrick,
Yes.
Supervisor Phillips. Yes. Supervisor Gilpin,
yes,
President Brooks.
Yes. Now, before we go on, I just have one comment. I've asked Chris to say something. I know we've all been somewhat frustrated in the time it's taken to get these minutes online and to see any type of videos from the meeting. So Chris, would you tell us how you were addressing this?
Sure, thank you. Starting March 4th, we're going to move to a GoToMeeting platform. And that's going to offer a couple advantages. One, within an hour or two, when the meeting's complete, they email over the video and audio. So we can post it the same day or the next day after the board meeting. With that software package also has a transcript function that does the voice recognition of the meeting, which will help immensely in preparing the minutes and the notes from the meeting. It just will depend on us to speak into the microphone clearly, but that'll be a big help. So I think you should expect a greatly improved product, and the board's direction at the last meeting was to have the meeting minutes on the agenda from the previous meeting. And this should allow us to accomplish that.
how much more money?
About $720 a year is the software fee.
Any comments on Chris's comments? I mean, it's just important. I tried to stress to him that it's difficult to have a meeting when you can't refer to the actual minutes or listen to the audio of the previous meeting. So hopefully this will eliminate the problem. We'll probably still have a problem with this meeting that we're having today. At least I'm anticipating we will. But certainly starting with March 4th, we should be in pretty good shape as far as this goes. All right, let's move on. Public comments. This applies to anything that is not going to be discussed later on based on our agenda. So state your name, speak into the microphone so we can get your good audio.
Good morning, Jim Serwis, resident. I think you have before you today a speed bump petition for might call the west end of Matanzas. A couple of months ago, I spoke with Officer Steve with the Sheriff's Department sitting in the tan palace on Matanzas, if you know what I mean, the tan palace rather than the pink. Asked him what was going on. He says, well, I'm watching for a white Toyota. I says, did you get the Mustang? Got him already. Between the school bus every third time speeding by, district trucks speeding by, residents speeding by, it's a little disgusting. Then a speed, your sign that tells you how fast you're going showed up a week or so ago. At the far end of the street where 2/3 of the people leaving or coming are, the sign's at the wrong end of the street to catch a speeder because most of the people head east to go out to wherever they're going. Talking of late, even an employee of the district who must have forgot something at home, and at 8:15 he came back at about 45 miles an hour to get something at home, and 2 minutes later took off. I can imagine how fast he was going down Cortez to get back to work because he was late. The next thing, parking on the lawns, is you have a law that says you must park on a hard surface. Does that mean that you can park 2 wheels on the cement and 2 wheels on the grass and park 2 cars side by side in a single car driveway, have one in the ditch and one in the front yard? I don't think that's what the intention was, but that's what has happened. And I've been told that that's sort of okay. Well, change the dang law and make it read the way that you want.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you? Who told you it was kind of okay?
That's beside the point.
No, it's not.
Bob
Bob
Brumfield.
Thank you.
The parking is a lot better than it used to be. It's not perfect, especially on Matanzas. Garbage. Bob and the security people know about the individual that every couple of weeks he puts out his garbage after it gets too much and it's blown around the yard. Every couple of weeks the yard gets picked up like somebody told him he better get it together. But then he can leave his garbage cans out all week. Beyond that, the duplexes with good-sized 2-car garages and 2 or 3 cars in the driveway and the garbage cans outside. I have a neighbor, 90 years old. She says, I never open my blind because I got to look at the garbage in those 3 cans that are sitting there. The rule says not to be seen from the street. When they're at the front corner of the house, but they're on the side, that's a far cry from can't be seen from the street. Nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's changing it. The garbage situation is much improved in the last, 5 years, that it's 50, 60% better, but we still got work to do, either change the rule. We as Sun and Lake Realty sold over $10 million in residential property last year. I love it here. I hope they take me back to Wisconsin in a box about this big. I don't want to leave. In the last few years, 4 rental homes have been sold to full-time owner-occupied. We are about to close on a 5th one that will be owner-occupied. We're starting to get rid of the crap. And they're not all crap. I don't mean that all renters are ugly, but there's a few. We've gotten, not we, 4 have disappeared in the last couple of years. We're about to do a 5th one, closing shortly. Any questions? Did I cover it all? Or did I cover too much?
You didn't cover, you're fine. I mean, We'll check out, I'll have Chris check out or some of your comments and we'll get back to you with some answers on what we're going to do.
Are you reporting to code enforcement the issues that you've identified?
Bob and I have talked a couple times.
Can you indicate when that may have occurred, within last month, 2 months, 6 months?
I haven't talked to Bob in weeks, 3 or 4 weeks at least, but we've had a few conversations over the last year or two.
And his response was?
It's pretty good. I mean, and things have cleaned up. The garbage problem, the garbage can problem has cleaned up a bundle. But when you have neighbors with 2-car garages and 3 cars in a driveway because it's full and they can't put their cans inside or don't want to, so everybody has to look at it. This 90-year-old neighbor is not going to complain to anybody, but she won't open her drain to look out because she's looking at his garbage. Okay, them each his own.
Do you happen to have the address?
It's really close to my home.
Okay.
I don't care, but
No, but no, we have the rules,
yeah,
and that's code enforcement, and code enforcement needs to be sure that those people are, in fact, we have means to find people that continually do the same violation over and over. And you're telling me that this 2-week guy, that's a multiple violation, and we have collected fines for it.
I think the hard part for Bob is that you can let your vehicle sit there so many days in a row, but then there's guys that will
No, you
move.
can't.
Correct.
That's not the way it reads.
I don't believe there's any.
Well, it sounds like one of the issues is we may have to define what constitutes parking. Because generally parking on a prepared surface, the main point of parking on a prepared surface is to prevent oil and vehicle leakage from entering into into the ground. So if they've got 2 tires sitting on the side of on the grass, but 3/4 or of the car is on the driveway, I can see Bob's position that the point of it is being met. However, we could vary if we want all 4 tires on the prepared surface, we should word it that way. So it's sad that that we have to get that technically specific, but if that's what it comes to, that may be what it comes to.
Well, to me, it needs to be all 4 wheels are on a
I would
hard
agree.
surface, because when is it too much and not enough?
Exactly.
So
I
we've
never
got the
thought of
rule.
it. I never thought of it as an environmental problem. I thought of it as an aesthetics problem that I want my neighborhood. Well, each is.
It's both.
Yeah, technically it is an environmental issue.
But it's both.
Yes.
Well, why don't you have Bob get together with Chris, or Chris get together with Bob, find out what's going on, check it against our policies, and if we have to make a change to our policy, come to us and let us know. If not, I would expect it would be fixed.
Yeah, based on the last board meeting, it's my understanding they're going to be hiring additional personnel to be reading water meters. So if we can cross-train those people to report violations that they see, that gives an extra. I understand how big the district is, and we do rely a lot on reports. But
I hear that, but we have a code enforcement team who's supposed to be doing it.
no, I mean agreed. But it's like I say, the more people that we have out looking, even if they're just reporting, if the meter readers are reporting to code enforcement saying, "Hey, we were out and we saw this," you might want to take a look.
Okay.
We also have security making continuous rounds. And to me, there's no reason why they can't be reporting violations of code.
And they know the problems. They have talked with me about seeing the problems. Maybe they just don't report them, but that should be part of their job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob will also be up during staff reports to address the speed petition from Matanzas.
We're going to hear from him today.
Yes, he's going to be here.
Okay.
I got, just a minute, Chris, make sure you get the speed things that were on Matanzas.
The report.
The report that,
He's bringing them.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Bill Norcross, resident. I'd just like to comment on the newsletter. I thought it was very informative, a lot of information, pardon me, a lot of information there. And I think the more information is disseminated to the community, the better off we could be. The sad thing is that there was an attendance of the district meeting. It was about 4 people. And it's kind of sad, it really is. But I think with the additional information that is in the newsletter, maybe more people will come, and I appreciate the update and the detailed news. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, next was a message from Scott, but Scott does not seem to be here.
No, Scott sent me an email late yesterday and said he wouldn't be able to attend, and if we needed anything to let him know.
Does anybody have any messages for Scott from the board? Okay, we'll catch him at the next meeting. Board workshop on strategic planning and board priorities for fiscal year 22-23. I believe that's you, Chris.
Yes, sir. And the intent and really what we're doing is moving into a portion of the board meeting where we're not taking votes or motions. It's really intended to be an informal discussion. And I handed out a number of items too that I'll bring up. But I'd really like to hear from the board members some of their issues they may be having or issues they think we need to confront. And we'll use this information to update their strategic plan. And we'll also use this information to drive the budget and items that we put in the budget. And we may also look at the information that we're putting together in that strategic plan update. And if we come up with the top 10 priorities for the budget, we could also distribute that to the residents via SurveyMonkey or online or in the utility bill, a hard survey, and see what they have to say. We would hope to get back a statistically significant or valid sample number of respondents, but it's always nice to be able to ask the folks what they think and what you hear from them. So I'd really just like to, we could start at either end, or Mr. President, if you want to recognize anybody, if you have some issues or things that are on your mind you'd like to bring up, and I'll add those for consideration and updating their strategic plan. And I used an example in the agenda item where we have several things related to the health club. And a lot of people see it as deficit. We have goals to improve our relationship with Advent. We have a goal to look at maybe partnering with the health club. As you all know, Advent has come in and asked for a significant contribution to building their new state-of-the-art fitness center. And we're still talking to them about an interim facility in the meantime. And I assume that would come up during budget time at those meetings. You know, do we want to address it, and at what amount? And from a business case wise, how much is it costing us to run the current fitness center? And if we closed it down and offered our residents the opportunity to participate in the hospital, Silver Sneakers is still valid up at the hospital. They'll have physical therapy up there, a lot of coaching, and a state-of-the-art fitness center people could take their golf cart to. But again, that's something that we can bring up at the budget meeting if the board wants to fund something like that.
Right.
And if we have some issues where the board isn't interested in it, then we'll take those out of the strategic plan.
Well, let's talk strategic plan first. Has anybody got any comments on it one way or the other in what was sent out? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities?
I thought that it was a very well done piece of work. And one thing I want to try to plug into that plan is we have the goals, but we don't have the objectives, how we're going to get to those goals. you know, one of those goals in the plan was the irrigation system on Deer Run. Well, the objective is to fund and finance the rebuilding the system. We've done that, so we could take that goal off.
Right.
Right. So some of these other things, and with rebuilding the infrastructure, the board's taken those steps to fund the facilities plan that are required by the DEP for long-term low-interest loans for the stormwater system and all the utilities. So we've already taken that step, which is an objective to achieve the goal. You know, and the next objective will be to sign a loan agreement. And that decision comes up when I would put a loan agreement with financing terms in front of the board. Up to that point, we put everything in place to allow you to make that decision. I've seen boards sometime you go through the work and they decide not to do it. But at least at that point, they have the opportunity, because as you know now, that's an 8 to 10 month process to make it happen. And we're getting geared up to get those approvals in August. So I'd rather gear up, have those approvals in front of you, and then you can make the decision versus saying, oh, you decided you want to do that now? Well, I'll get with you next year.
Any comments? I mean, go ahead.
I agree, that, you know, this is the type of thing that drives our budgets. And if we've got things that we need done or want done, that we think, you know, I agree that there's a lot of opportunities in here for some of the strengths and the weaknesses. The weaknesses identify, in my opinion, significant items that have been pushed aside for whatever reason that we can no longer afford to push aside, in my opinion. That's just one vote. But I think we really have to dig into how we are going to improve the things that we've neglected and become more proactive instead of just reactive as we're doing right now. The reactive is costing us a lot of money. The proactive is going to cost us a lot of money also, but it's going to keep us from having all of these emergencies. Opinion, but we can't keep ignoring the things that need to get done.
Any other comments? I would think that we need to update this and look, I mean, this was basically what we did a year or so ago, right?
Yes, sir.
So I would like to see it updated, because some of the stuff we've done, I mean, development of Unit 12, for example, under opportunities, we've sold that property, so that doesn't need to be on there any longer. That's been accomplished. And then just update it and bring it back to us, and we can see what you interpret as our opportunities and weaknesses, and go from there. I mean, in looking like on page 4, water meter failure, we've addressed that. We were aware of that. So some of this stuff, you know, it just needs to be updated. I think that all of the weaknesses that you pointed out on the top right, that's pretty much on page 1, that's pretty much consistent, and we understand that, and we haven't addressed it, and we're in the process of trying to address it. So a lot of this doesn't change, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of newness on this. I think it's more or less just a question of updating, and then all of us agreeing that we're on the same page. Anybody?
Yeah,
Unit 12.
yeah.
Have you heard anything from Hornet? I heard one rumor that I'm not going to share, but are things progressing on Unit 12?
Yes.
To our knowledge.
The last action we've had with Unit 12, the developer has submitted an application to the county for a replat and to vacate all those old roadway easements so he can reconfigure the lots in there. And part of that process too is they asked us for a letter from the utility department that we would be the utility supplier for 77,000 gallons a day. And we're providing that to the planning department. So that's the latest on Unit 12.
So it's still progressing.
Right. And
Dave, I have a question on the Unit 12. Can we go back there? I was going to walk back there, and I didn't know exactly where his property is and where ours is, but
Yeah, I mean, we can absolutely go on the part
Can we-
that's ours,
can-
and if we want to go on the part that's his, I'm sure I don't think he would
I can
deny
take
us
a
that
walk
access.
then and go back there.
Yeah, if you're going to go on the part that's his, and I don't know if there's survey stakes up, I haven't taken a look at it.
Yeah, me.
But obviously, you're allowed to walk on anything that the district still owns, you can go on. But if you want to go on property that's his, I'd recommend at least letting him know that you're going to be out there, because he'll probably take you out there, my guess.
Yeah. Are we still working on getting the lots on the other section done?
You mean like the little tiny individual lot?
Yes.
Yeah, they gave us a list, and we have sent out communications to those people. Unfortunately, the majority of them were returned as undeliverable. So we're
Good.
kind of,
Very
we
good.
don't really know how to get a hold. We based on the information that we have, we sent out letters. Most of them were returned. So.
Okay. Thank you.
How do you proceed? You can't get in touch with people.
Well, I'd say at some point, and that'll be something, a discussion to have with Hornick at some point in the future, but if he wants us, because basically the district is supposed to be taking reasonable steps in order to make those lots available to him for purchase. If we are unable to reach the owners based on the information that's available to us, then our only real option is to foreclose, and we can only foreclose if there's outstanding assessments. So if there is an outstanding assessment and we can foreclose, we have to get notice to those people, but notice can be accomplished through publication. So if we don't have a good address because they failed to update their information with the property appraiser, then we can still foreclose. It's just a elongated process.
Are they current on assessments in those particular lots?
I'd have to check. I don't know off the top of my head, but we could find that out.
Well, I think we need to then, because that's the next step.
Mhm.
If we can't find them to get it addressed, then I'd suggest if they're more than likely, if we can't find them, they're not paying the assessments.
That would be my
We might
guess.
as well go ahead and get it foreclosed and let's move on.
Okay.
Okay, so as I understand it, then we have two issues here. We got to get a clarification on Unit 12 as to how we're going to proceed with the lots that we don't own. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. The lots that, at least the lots that Hornick has identified as ones that he's interested in obtaining in order to, fill in gaps.
But when we sell the rest of the properties, we're going to have to do the same thing if there's any homes with that, lots with that situation.
Well, yeah, I say potentially. So I guess that would be the thing to do, is to figure out how many lots in Unit 12 are still, are under separate ownership, the district doesn't own, and how many of those are, owe assessments, because the people that are maintaining their assessments, we can't do anything.
Right, but my guess is
Not a lot.
majority of them are not if we can't find out where they're at.
So that would be one issue we have to address, and then the other issue is just to update this strategic plan so we can take a look at it, correct?
Sure, and under that update too, on those goals that we've accomplished, we'll note that. We can put underneath it how it's been addressed so you can see the accomplishments of the original strategic plan.
Just having a minor problem here.
Okay, and I know we have had.
Okay, when do you think you'd have the update on the strategic plan for us? March 4th or the next meeting?
March 4th probably be too soon, but the second meeting in March.
Second meeting in March. Okay.
18th.
And David, when can you have the list of the homes we have to deal with?
Oh, I can get with Amanda. I would say March 4th. I could probably have that information. It shouldn't be difficult, because the ones that, at least specifically, do you want them separated, like the ones that Hornick has directed us to find as well, and then separated from the ones that we?
Yeah, we
Okay.
might as well.
Okay,
Right.
Otherwise, it might be an opportunity for us to make some money on some other lots.
gotcha.
All right, so you'll give that to us on March 4th as well?
And we could bring that up too. I had one lot in particular, it's owned by the district. So there's no back county taxes on it. There's no bonds due on it. It's a nice residential lot. The assessment, I think, was $4,000, and had someone interested in it. And I said, well, you could send in a bid, but we could bring it up at the same meeting. Just put a few of those lots out on the market for open bid for 30 days and let's see where we are on lot values.
Okay, so
Fill
we'll
it
have
out
a
previous.
list of homes on the 4th with directions on how we're going to, or suggestions on how we should proceed. And the strategic act,
Yeah, lots.
strategic
Mhm.
plan on the 18th. Okay. Organizational chart, is there any other comments on the strategic plan? Organizational chart and staffing. First, that would be you again.
Sure. And we did an update on the organizational chart based on the last meeting where we moved a $500,000 line item into the operational side. And the impetus of that was the board looking to delay the implementation of a new meter system and hiring some additional staff to read meters, but also to upgrade the staff capability in the utility department. And anything new, we have a dashed line on that chart, and a couple of those positions. I'll introduce you today to Deb Border. She's our new board secretary. She's going to be the ringmaster in the front, and she lives in Tanglewood. She's from Wisconsin. She has some government background and private sector background, and very pleasant to work with, very capable. And I think a few of you have already met her and talked to her at the front desk.
We welcome you.
Welcome aboard. Good luck.
Yeah, Tanglewood resident from Wisconsin.
Can't change your mind after today's meeting.
But that position has been filled, and also the permitting and project administrator position we filled with Sunday Fox Dickerson, and she's actually a current employee with the district working in recreation, and she's been helping Amanda out also when she has some open time coming over. And I was talking to her one day, and she mentioned she had a degree and a master's degree and a background in construction, literally work construction. And I said, how'd that happen? She goes, well, I was a single mother and I had a daughter to support. So she has all the skill set. And we went over some of the things we wanted to accomplish in permitting and project management, which is we have all these big blue folders, and we're going to automate it and basically put it into the system where Drew can go in and see what the project status is. The staff can go in and see what the project status is. And we also want to put our permitting in those applications online so contractors can go in there and pull the permit manual and make an application and also pay those fees online. And one thing we don't have is we have a nice permit package, but how to wade through it's a different story. So we're going to flow chart it. And, when the things go to the county, when the inspections take place, and we're going to put that right in the front of the permitting package. So those are a few of the goals for that position. And we used to have, of course, Mike in as the operations manager, and he was between the district manager and over these departments, the roads and drainage and utilities. And I eliminated that position because it still only leaves me with 8 direct reports, and most managers should have 6 to 8 direct reports if they're managers. So these moves that have been made are revenue neutral and actually have saved us some money from what we were spending before. I also, part of that funding, looked at hiring a website consultant. We've had several comments about the website being antiquated. It's unwieldy for the staff to use and update, and it's really just not a workable product. It's not ADA compliant. A lot of it isn't. And so I have later on in the budget, you'll see I've allocated $10,000 to bring someone in to basically revamp our website and make it more user-friendly, more information. And I'll have to mention too, with that, we're going to try to keep current information and maybe one meeting back. But if you have years of meeting minutes and board reports and things like that up there, it all has to be ADA compliant. And that's running anywhere from 50 cents to $1.50 a page to make that stuff a change. And we don't get that many requests for it. So what we'll do with that is just ask someone to send in a request for it, and we'll provide it to them versus making thousands of pages ADA compliant for the 5 or 6 people that may ask for it.
Are we allowed to do that?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Well, you say, oh, sure, but we've been told by previous members of our team that we had to do it differently.
I defer to the attorney, but as long as the information is available and we respond to the folks, like a public records request, and that's typically 48 hours. And so at that point, we just get the request in and we send it to them, email it or hard copy, however they'd like it.
Yeah, my recollection is that if it's on the website, being available through the website, meaning like if you're linking it, then it does have to be ADA compliant. But the public records laws do not require that we maintain all of our records available online. So like I say, Chris's
Okay.
solution is
Good.
perfect in my opinion.
And also looking at that, we do have we're interviewing for a full-time customer service representative. We've had a part-time person filling that role and haven't filled it with a full-time. So we're interviewing to fill that full-time, and that's at the front desk of that utility operation there. And the other item that came up, and it was really from the last meeting and funding and training, is we've added 2 full-time utility techs and 1 plant operator. And that budget information is in the spreadsheet that I have attached to this. And right now we have basically with Joey, 5 people in the utility operation. So a lot of that is training the staff. They'd be doing the manual meter reading, adding to that too. So where that would come up in is I have it budgeted and the expenditure for this year, but any new, like those positions, okay, we're paying for it with that allocation. Well, what about next fiscal year? Well, those positions and that would all be rolled into a utility rate case, which we're starting to work on, and we'll address that down the line too. So that's where we are with the staffing. And there was one other item that I'm looking at too and trying to make it work is we've had help with the permitting in our office through a temp service employee, done a very, very good job and helped out with Amanda in other sections of the business. She does work for the temp service. She didn't quite have the skill set for the permitting job, but I'd really like to, and I'm going to try to find the funding to bring her on board as a part-time or possibly even a full-time, and have her working down in Public Works with George and Joey and Bob Brumfield and Bob Height to provide administrative and purchasing support to those people. You know, one of the biggest problems Bob has in code enforcement is he's a one-man band. He has all this paper documents he has to file and notarize, and it really restricts the amount of time he's out in the field because he's in his office 5 or 6 hours a day grinding through paperwork. It's the same thing with some of the administrative with George and them. And I just see it as a need back there that they're good at what they do, but on the administrative side, that's another story.
Just so you guys know, excuse me, I told Chris that we would wait till the budget for that position, because we've got a lot on our plate right now. And I wanted to see what the budget, when we start working on the budget process, see what that looked like before he proceeded with this position.
And I will restate that everything that we've done, including hiring paychecks and hiring Infomark, has been revenue neutral or saving money. The Infomark cost was basically the salary and benefits of the finance director we have, which we no longer have that position. We also had an APAR clerk in there. So everything we've done to date, we're actually saving money. We're in the mid-40s with the permitting and project administrator. The position that I eliminated as that ops manager was at 70K. So 26,000 plus that enhanced benefits package. So I'm moving the salary burden down, not up.
I don't know if I heard Ray right, but I'm in favor of you getting these things filled as soon as you can, and I want to work the budget to make it. We need to get this stuff taken care of now. And if we need to take money, we just took 2.2 million from someplace. We could find money for these people that we need to get this thing up and running.
Yeah, he's okay to proceed with this.
Okay.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, I am, and that's a need identified, and I'm going to come back and talk about it because I don't want to lose that skill set. But part of that too, we would push into that utility side because a lot of that support would be for Joey. But I'll bring that back when we have our first budget meeting.
Very good.
Are there any comments on the staffing that he's proposing as you see it?
I like what I see so far. The two full-time and the utility people techs and the one, are those out for bid, right, or are posted?
I was waiting to hear from the board today if they had any issues with it. Otherwise, we're ready to move forward with it. And
So no, not yet.
But that was what we passed?
yes, sir, moving it, but I just wanted to make sure you were fine with what we
Oh,
were doing. And I will add, we went out and we were checking salaries locally, salaries, and when you're looking at hiring even a single or a dual licensed utility operator to run our plants, you better have $22 an hour in your pocket. And Sebring is pushing, they just changed from $14.21 to $15 an hour. And I read that one of the counties just had to increase their salary of their bus drivers from $14.50 to $16.47 because they couldn't get anybody to drive their buses. So there is pressure on salaries. And, we want to bring people in here that don't want to just come in for a job, that they're really looking at it for a career, and we provide them training and upward mobility and, a commitment to work here. And, it's beneficial on both sides. Look, we're going to help you with training and increasing your skill set, and that benefits us, having trained workers, and they have a buy-in with what's going on here, because besides just the salary, it's benefiting them.
But we need to have a competitive salary also, so we don't train and lose immediately also.
Well, you'll see that on my next sheet.
Yeah, we discussed that.
Chris, I might have missed it when you were talking, but did you address the one employee that wasn't in the budget? Are we going to make sure that guy is paid for?
Well, that's something interesting that came up. I kind of inherited that, found out about it because I looked and I go, wait a minute, we have 2 maintenance positions, but only one's in the budget. Oh, Dan and Mike moved this guy in, and how'd you pay him? Well, August, September, or right before that, those 3 months, they put them into an open salary spot in utilities. So the utilities was paying for the maintenance guy. And so I said, now what's going on? It's like, oh, they moved him into public works. He's being paid from them now. And I said, but you don't have a position. And my point was, all of a sudden, the end of the year, the board's going to look at me and go, why are you 50 grand over in your salaries? And I go, well, because we filled this position and nobody asked you. And I asked.
Okay.
I understand what's been going on, but I just want to make sure that gets legal and we do it right and getting,
Is this correct?
Yes.
This
And if
takes
he's a
care-
good-
This takes care of what Mike's asking?
Well, that position is not funded in public works. And I asked George to identify.
Is that position where it should be on your chart?
Yes, sir.
So going forward, it will be corrected, like Mike's asking?
yeah, I just want to make sure, and this is a good employee, I'm assuming.
Sure.
I think I know who it is, and it's,
Yeah, solid guy. And I asked
Yeah.
George to identify where the 50 grand's going to.
I just want to make sure that we keep him in and we put him legal. Okay?
So you got him in the right place now.
He's in the right place. It's just finding the
Okay.
money to pay him. That's not, like I said, it wasn't in the budget to hire him, and he was hired before I got here. And I'm like, what's this guy doing here when we don't have the spot for him in the budget?
I couldn't answer that.
I asked and no
Good
one could
question.
remember. So
Okay, so we're good going forward. Any other questions on this chart? Any comments on the chart? I do have 2 questions, just to verify. The guys who are reading the meters is covered in this, correct? We're good?
yes,
And the other thing on this, on the website consult, you and I talked briefly about this. I think we need to decide I guess as the board, what we want our website to represent. I mean, I was thinking about this last night. I think 2 websites is good. I think we have one for the Sun and Lake District, which we currently have. And then I think we have one for Sun and Lake Golf Club. And that's all we need. And everything should work off of those 2. I don't know if you can intertwine those 2. So if you update one, it updates the other automatically, but that's what we would be looking for. Because right now, if you look at it, on one, there's the correct information. On the other, there's the old information. They're just not talking to each other. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. 2 websites that intertwine with each other. So we only have to update things once.
Well, then we also have a social media presence on Facebook.
I'm only talking websites. I'm not talking Facebook.
And is that something the board wants to continue having that presence, or is our website enough of a presence, or do we want a social media presence? Now, we don't allow people to comment on our social media.
I would assume that we want Facebook. Don't we?
I would think we would continue with social media
Yeah.
because that's an easier way of getting current information out besides the website.
Sure.
And
So,
And
the website gets improved to the place where it's
but it should be.
updated and it's current and everything's right on it, then people would start going there more often. Right now, but I do believe somehow I would like to see them, like you say, they have to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And if that means just going to one and having one coordinator, you know, I think I would prefer one. There's a golf section and there's a
District.
the recreation system and there's a district office. But it would be one site, click the icon that you want to go to and go from there. Because this having to go here for one and this with the other, and I don't know how well that would work with Indigo, but I think it's something that could be done.
sure.
I mean, and I told Chris this, we have spent close to, what, $100,000 in trying to do this right with websites? I mean, it's a joke. We still can't get it right. So I'm all in favor of spending another 10 grand if we can actually fix it and have a decent product to present to the community. The other concern I have, though, is who's going to maintain it once we get it right? And that becomes a serious, I'm not saying who should do it. I'm just saying somebody's got to be assigned the responsibility of maintaining and updating. That's in your court.
And I'll also mention, and we'll put that in the budget, because when you maintain that social media presence and it's our Facebook page, it has to be ADA compliant.
Okay, anything else on the staffing? Okay, board priorities, discussion. Chris?
Well, sure. And I didn't know if there were any other, we've had a few conversations in the last few weeks about the dog park. That's just something that's simple, but there's some issues with the misbehaving pet owners, so to speak. And I pointed out, we don't have a formal policy like we do with the golf course. We don't have a formal membership that people break the rules. We can suspend them like the golf club does, but that's something we may want to look at, and post those rules. And if people are going to be in the dog park, they come in and sign up. You could even say, well, you got to show us your vaccinations and we'll give you a card, and then you can put a $5,000 lock on the gate. And the reason I'm bringing this up is we had a resident, it's like, well, we want the board to send this person a letter. And I was like, based on them violating what? And our penalties for a policy in them. But that's just something that really just comes back to, it could be 40 hours of staff work developing all that. And if you want, putting the swipe card on there and making a membership.
And it is an important issue. I mean, there's a lot of big things that need to be done
Okay.
at Center Lake, like the infrastructure and all that stuff. But the dog park, we have it, and my dog was the one that got bit and dipped on the knee, but it doesn't matter because Steve can take care of himself. But still, it brought to my attention the dog park. And also, we have the shuffleboard courts and the night games of pickleboard under lighted courts that are not our members, our residents, they're residents of the club, but they're not residents. So I know that I'm asking for more money to go into the budget, but I think it's something that we need to put on a list to get the little things secure in our community.
Sure, and it's all access control.
Access control.
I've seen dog parks where it's like, well, they charge the residents $25, and that's just to issue them a little card and check their vaccinations. Then, everybody that goes in there, their pets are current. Do you want to take that step? But non-residents, they charge them $150.
Well, I think it's a good thing for a discussion, because I'm with Bev. I'm in favor of we need to get policies, and I hope you start on it, you guys, for the dog park.
That's what I'm asking.
And,
for policy.
and we need to do that. And I want to look at maybe enlarging the dog park this summer in the next budget, so. But I know there's a dog there. It wasn't Bev's dog when it happened, but when I was there with my dog, it was, and it's in the big dog park, it attacked 2 dogs within 5 minutes. So we need, we need a policy to get that taken care of. And we also need to think about making it a little bigger. 2 days ago, I was at the dog park and there was 16 little dogs just in the little dog side. And when we built this, the only criticism we had of the people who wanted it was that they didn't think we made it big enough. And I said, because I think I was the president back then, it's a hurricane year, that we would maybe make it bigger if it becomes popular. And it's a big asset to Sun and Lake, and we need to look at it and pay more attention to it.
Those dog parks are extremely popular. The residents who use it are extremely passionate about it. And
Yes.
it's, besides the exercise for the dogs, it's quite a lot of social interaction going on, and that's why people go.
So let's take one step at a time.
Sure.
When would you be able to present us with a dog park policy? Is that how to say it?
Yeah, the girls here just let me know that there is one. We have dog park rules and regulations, and they're telling me it's part of the policy manual already. So maybe we just need to do a better job
All
of
right, can we?
noticing everybody. But
Can we do this since we have a policy that none of us are aware of?
Mhm.
Can you send us a copy and let's discuss it at the March 4th meeting?
Yeah, certainly start talking about it March 4th.
Does the policy mention updates on vaccinations?
We'll send out what they got and then we can discuss it on the 4th.
Yes,
and
it does.
All right, and
So you'll send us a copy and March 4th.
And that's posted where?
It's posted outside of the dog park. There's a physical sign, sorry. There's a physical sign and with the rules and regulations, and it's posted on the fence of the dog park.
I do remember that. Send us a copy. We'll look at it on March 4th and update it.
And Chris, can you come back with a budget to that, how much it would take to implement the swipe cards?
Sure, we can take, I'll get a quote from it. And can I ask you to get a little closer to your mic?
Yes.
Bring it in. 'Cause
Thank you.
Can't hear.
Can't hear it through the speaker.
Bring back a proposed budget of how much it would cost to bring the dog park up to speed and what your suggestion would be for a non-resident membership to the dog park.
Yeah, and I'll caution you, that's like difficult like the tennis courts, because when people come up even with swipe cards, oh, they're my friend, let them in, or they prop the door open, or.
Right.
And I know that there was some public fund use in some of those, I think the dog park and the shuffleboard court. So I'm going to have a
This,
conversation about making sure that we're on solid ground if we want to
Right.
restrict access to it.
shuffleboard, we did receive money, so that has to be available to the public. The dog park, we did on our own. I don't believe,
Well,
for
double
what?
check. I thought
What
it
we
was
do?
ours.
I'm just going to double check in general.
Yeah,
So
I'm
that
not
way
sure
we know
we-
in the future, if anything that we use public funds for, we want to make sure that we're able to.
Right.
Because like I say, I mean, the dog park is still, I mean, that's, the district owns that land.
Right.
So in my opinion, we should be able to restrict access to it. So even if, especially, I don't know that we can restrict access in general, but if people are not following rules and regulations, we absolutely should be able to restrict access. So I'm going to confirm all that.
My memory says we just put the fence up in the dog park. The land was already there. And we made a sign. Okay, we'll check it out.
We'll look into it.
Any,
We
Chris,
don't currently charge anything for it, do we?
No.
Chris, any other any topics you want to bring up?
Well, I have a half a dozen and open for comment, and I was just going to bring it up too, as we look into the strategic plan and moving forward. I have on here board appetite for borrowing. Right now, we're working on the facilities plan for stormwater. That would involve borrowing $5 million. The utility side, borrowing $10 million. The good side is it's a very low interest loan over 20 years. And all your new residents are going to help pay that bill. It's not just going to be the existing residents that are saddled with that.
Sounds just like our government.
So, but there are some nuances of fiscal sustainability plan, operations plan. It's paperwork intensive, but again, we'll bring that to the board and they can make the decision at that time. But it's very popular right now. Lake Placid is in for $1.5 million to expand the water line they need. City of Cape Coral took $100 million out to convert septic tanks into their sewer system. They typically loan out $400 to $500 million a year. And that's a federal program. The state just matches part of that money and they're the conduit to distribute it through the SRF. But we'll bring it back. Another thing I was going to put in the budget and the board could keep it or not is a reserve study. And this is really just a budget planning tool that identifies all your infrastructure, the useful life of that and what the replacement value is. You see it a lot with HOAs, reserve studies for roofs, common areas, things like that. Typically a consultant, $20,000, $25,000 to develop a plan like that. What it would tell you is how much money you should put away each year in your reserve account.
So that's all part of a budget conversation.
Yes, sir. That's just,
Let's stay with what we got today.
Sure. I put in about the utility account, the URRIF. I know we had a memorandum that we distributed from David. There was a question about the legality of transferring that funds. And
Right.
yes, it's legal to do it. We didn't, from a staff standpoint, never had an issue with that. David's recommendation is to just make that part of the budget, in a public hearing format, so it's a little more transparent. And what I attached was a list of 22 local governments in the state that transfer money from their enterprise fund to their general fund from 2.5% up to 14%. In a variety of ways. And what I'll come back during the budget hearing to ask the board if they want to set a percentage aside that we would roll into our utility rate. So every year you could budget and say, here's that set amount. It would be separate from the URRF fund. This would just be almost like a franchise fee that the utility department is paying the district to operate in their right of way.
Okay, do you have the revised budget that copies for everybody? Did
Yes,
everybody
sir,
get copies of it?
Yes, sir. It should be in your book.
You all got copies of that revised budget based on last meeting's conversation?
This one?
Yeah.
The first page.
Yeah.
In that handout, and there's a copy on your desk.
So that's currently, with the changes that we made at the last meeting with the meters, et cetera, that is an updated picture of where we are, which is ending the year with about a little over $7 million in reserves. The question that needs our approval is that utility fund operations of 500,000. That's 500,000 that he asked for at the last meeting. And you have a breakdown of that, how he plans to spend that money. And I just need everybody to be on the same page that it's okay for him to spend that money.
I like it. And one of the, very well identifies the areas that he's.
Mike?
I like the breakdown that he had on the proposed staffing equipment for this area. What I really think is where we need to be is the proactive part of the spare parts. I think that it just makes absolute sense that we have availability to make the repairs instead of waiting. So everything I saw on here, I thought was good. So I think I like it.
Any other comments?
Me too.
You good?
I'm good.
I like it.
Yep.
Very good.
Okay, so we don't have to vote on this, but we're in agreement that this becomes part of the budget, I guess. Is that correct?
I mean, is this an amendment? technically?
Well, the board moved $500,000 at the last meeting when they approved the golf course. And the direction with that golf course approval was to move the $500,000 into the utility operations budget. And this is just the spending plan
Gotcha.
for moving
So
that.
we're good.
Okay. So we're all good. So even with that 500,000, we should be around $7 million starting next year. Now, I'll just point out also that in this still is the recreation facility money, which is what, 350,000?
Yes.
Ariel, recreation money is 350,000, right?
I'll answer for it.
Yes.
Yes.
And that 350,000, based on the latest information I have, will not be spent in this fiscal year.
It's looking that way. So we should hear back from the state with regards to the grant money that we applied for. I'm thinking somewhere in July. So to me, I don't think we can make a decision on that until at least we get that information in July. So likely, yes, you are correct that we will not be able to spend
Right.
and have that project completed in this fiscal year.
Right. Well, I mean, we can leave it there for now.
I actually thought that at our last meeting, we talked about moving that into 22, 23.
I believe we did.
I think we did, but I don't think we did it. So
Okay.
we don't need to update this again, but you need to update it for your records. Let's move that 350 out of this 21, 22 and put in 22, 23, and then they'll resubmit it during the budget process. So theoretically, we should be about 7.4 ending this year if all things stay the way they should. And I don't think we need to revisit this once that change is made until budget conversations. Any other comments from the board on A, B, and C of the board workshop? Otherwise, I'll open it up for public comments. Any public comments on what we just discussed pertaining to our workshop? Okay, moving. Oh. Yes, sir.
Bill Norcross, resident again. You're talking about taking $350,000 out of their recreational budget? Is that what?
She doesn't understand.
No, I'm taking 350,000 out of the capital budget that was allocated for recreational, for the swing set and all that.
Because usually what happens that we're, especially the golf business here, usually is subsidized. You're not eliminating this subsidized.
We are waiting to
But-
hear, we are waiting to hear on that subject, which is why we're not doing anything right now.
Okay, I just want to make it sure. That's
Okay.
all. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other public comments? All right, action agenda. A, proposed revised rules and regulations on golf. That would be Michael.
We need motion.
I move.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I move to discuss adopted revised rules and regulations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mike,
Good morning Supervisors. I'm not sure. I believe in your packet, you may have got the old one that I had brought to the last meeting. With that discussion that we had in that meeting, the board members, you approved item number 1 and item number 2, and we were going to scratch out item number 3. So if you're
Yes.
making a motion to approve, I would just put that in your motion, and I do apologize if that is the.
don't you have a copy of what we got?
I'd have a copy, yes. Well, I'm not sure what the copy you got, but the copy I have has that adjustment made. I'm afraid yours did not have, I think yours still has that third item on there. But so when you make a motion, just move to approve item 1 and number 2 and scratch number 3.
Oh, wait,
Wait,
Is that,
I don't know what you're talking about.
either do I. And my first question, if I don't have the right one, why?
It's the, if dues
That's
have
what
not,
it should be? My question would be, why is it not what it should be? Well, this is, all right, we'll discuss this at the next meeting. We'll discuss it at the next meeting when we have the correct documentation in front of us.
With which we were to.
I move to table.
Gotcha.
second,
We'll revisit this on March 4th when it's correct.
We have to vote that through.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to question it.
Yeah, if you're tabling it, yeah, we should take a vote to table it.
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
Supervisor Herrick,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes,
President Brooks,
Yes. Proposed budget schedule fiscal year 22-23. That would be Chris.
Yes, sir, and we,
Motion in a second.
Oh, I need a motion. I'm sorry. Motion,
motion.
Second.
Chris.
yes, sir, that is the proposed budget schedule for this upcoming fiscal year, next fiscal year, and there were some errors on the one that were sent out, my fault. We were comparing it and moving dates around, and but the one you have in front of you approximates as close as possible to the schedule last year and gets us done in plenty of time for the one legal deadline we have is the end of September, when that budget has to be submitted to the tax collector, property appraiser, and powers that be. But we have the same number of hearings, board meetings to address each of those issues, and we're getting started in March.
Any questions from the board? I just want to I have one question. Mike, are you okay with August 19th is when we approve the final golf rates? Is that okay with you guys? Just to be sure.
So I believe, yeah, that probably would be too, it's very close. As long as, if you're doing your final adoption at that time, that's okay. But as long as we need to have all our membership packets ready, prepared, and sent out usually we send them out in August. So we need those rates approved in order to prepare that paperwork, because we start taking membership September 1.
Well, right now it's scheduled for August 19th.
Okay, I would like to, if we can move that, at least that portion forward.
That would
Earlier.
be, if we moved it back one, it would be July 22nd.
That would,
Is that good enough or you want even earlier? I mean,
the earlier the better for us. I mean, we have to,
July 22nd?
what's the first meeting in July?
Huh?
I don't think it's a big deal when we set it, it's just, we should do it to work it to Mike's benefit.
Sure. Well, normally when we go through the process, we have more than one workshop. So we're usually pretty well on the same page when it comes to rates by time we get that far. But if we need to make any adjustments, I just need a little bit of time, because we'll have those packets ready to go. So as soon as you say go ahead, I mean, they're ready to go out the door that same day. So, but yes, leeway is better.
So July 22nd?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go.
Is the board okay with July 22nd?
Yes.
Well, definitely for that.
Do we have to, we're just changing one to another. Do we have to vote on that? We're taking the golf rate approval from August 19th to July 22nd.
Yeah, so that's a proposed amendment then to the,
So we have
what we're
to do
doing.
it.
So yeah, we need to do a motion in a second, all that good stuff.
I make a motion, we move the proposed meeting for the rates, golf rates till July 22nd?
Do I have a second?
Recreation and golfers.
Yeah. So you seconding?
Yep, she said.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can we have-
And so we technically need to have public comment.
Oh, public comment on that change? Can we have a vote, please?
Yep.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Herrick,
Yes.
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks.
Yes. And now we need to have public comments. Any other comments on the schedule as it is now? Any public comments? I believe we have to have a vote.
Now we have a vote on it as amended.
On the balance of this.
Supervisor Herrick,
Yes.
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks.
Yes. C, proposed 21-22 capital improvement schedule for drainage with an update on road paving work.
Yes, sir. And what I had an update for you that I provided the last meeting, and also talked about where we were on the budget with drainage. We have $275,000 that was budgeted for drainage maintenance and repair. We have expended a little more than $100,000 on emergency repairs on Belmar, and there's a picture there over on Sunrise. I think y'all have seen the subsidence there and that
Pebble Beach.
structure that's been rehabilitated, the Pebble Beach work.
Mhm.
And it appears we did get a quote from KDL that was approximately $100,000, and that would complete that phase one of that drainage program that was scheduled for this year, and then still leave us with a little bit more than $40,000 for something that may or may not happen. And if we get through the rainy season and don't have any big issues, we'll go back to some preventative maintenance. We are taking some steps to try to improve the work we're doing. One, we're looking at putting filter fabric down in the ditches and some riprap. So instead of 2 or 3 years later coming back and having to clean those ditches again, they'll last for 5 or 10 years, if not longer. I'm also looking at having some material and some riprap put around some of the big drainage structures, like the one on Belmar they just rehabbed. And what it does is it keeps dirt and trash from going down into those grates. Of course, it ends up in the lakes and ponds back there. And I was just waiting. I sent Drew a text, and he'll be in here in a minute because he
I was
was
going to say, where's Drew?
Yeah, he instead of having to wait here, I've been texting him and giving him a 15-minute out, and he said, "I'll be there in just a minute." I think I just.
Did I forget to do a motion on this?
No, I think we're okay.
But if you wanted to, I see that Bob's here. If you want to move into that security report while we're waiting for Drew, he should be just a minute or two, but.
So do we have to vote to table this until Drew comes?
I don't think we need to vote to table it if we're going to address it later. I mean, if you're just moving something up on the agenda.
So the next thing would be proposed utility, increase to utility connection fees and workshop hearing date. Do I have a motion on that?
So move.
Second.
Chris?
Sure. Yes, sir. And we have received the study from Florida Rural Water on our connection fees and where we are in their recommendations. And when you're implementing something like that, that impacts a lot of people, the Rural Water requested that we have a meeting with them, and they can come online. And it's basically, we advertise it as a public hearing too, because this will have a significant impact on the rates and fees that are going to be charged. And I think you have in the chart in front of you that I gave you, shows some of the surrounding utilities and where we are in comparison to them. And Avon Park just finished a similar study on 21 to raise their connection fees based on the rural water. And I listed both their existing fees and their proposed fees. And if you see on the fees for Sun and Lake Improvement District, you have 2 versions of it on there. One proposed, total replacement. And it's a huge number. And it's actually a good comparison when you look at what Avon Park has and what we have. And if you go, well, why are our proposed fees for total replacement so much higher? And it's because we have a lot more infrastructure to replace when they do. But as you see, even with the lower level, it's 100% increase. And but politically, there are limitations how much you can increase those fees. That was enacted by the governor last year as the economy got better and a lot of local governments went into huge increases in their fees. He said, no, if you're going to raise them over that 50% mark, you'll have to do it over a 2-year period. And what I'm really asking today is we'll publicize and distribute that report, but to set a hearing for the March 4th meeting where we'll go over and we'll have a proposal for the board to approve.
So really, this is an FYI. We will finalize this on March 4th. So you guys can take a look at it. get comfortable with it, and then on the 4th, because it's not necessarily connected with the budget, we will do a final vote on it
Yes, sir.
and put it into place.
And when you look at the connection fees, those are strictly set up for capital improvements to replace your capital. You have a new resident coming in and, okay, you have an impact on our plant. We have to provide you sewer service. We have to provide you so many gallons of water service. This is a pro rata share of what it costs us to provide that service. That's how those fees are generated. Some people complain about it. They're like, wait a minute, $5,000 more or that whatever you're going to raise it. And it really adds to the value of the housing though, because it's an asset to your house in the future. If those fees go up, you've already paid it on your existing home. So, and it will only impact the new housing. There's no impact to the existing residents with this. And I hate to say it, but it's really like pay your fair share. And
Okay.
you notice that Sebring's low, but they're working right now to raise their rates right now.
All right, so we have that chart. We'll discuss it March 4th. Any comments from the board? Any public comments? No vote? Oh,
Phil Norquist, resident. I just a couple of quick questions on this road paving work. There was
we
a fund that
didn't
was,
get there yet.
it was initiated. It was,
We didn't get there yet. We're waiting for Drew.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We did not get there yet. We're waiting for Drew, who just arrived.
We just arrived, just in time. Well, I have a question on that. Maybe you can just answer it.
We haven't discussed it
We,
yet.
I'm talking about the fund. I'm talking about the fund.
Yes.
We have the fund available. Because I haven't seen too much road work done out here in the last couple of years.
We have budgeted $300,000 for road work this year, Bill.
And it's staying in the budget.
As far as I know, unless you've taken it.
No. That's all I was concerned about. It remains in the budget.
I believe it's still in the budget.
Yes, sir, it is. And Drew will give us an update on it. And, last year due to COVID and a lot of things that paving work didn't get done this year, and they're working on both
All right.
those years.
Drew, we're waiting for you. So we can go back, that issue's done. We can go back to C. State your name and talk into the microphone.
Oh, Drew Jones, Postal Engineering, District Engineers. Just to follow up, to make sure we're doing an overview on drainage and roads, where we're at. We can start with drainage. We spent a good chunk of our intended budget on emergency projects this year, which I think Chris touched on a little bit. We've had multiple emergency issues on Sunrise, near Hampton Woods and Sunrise and Sunrise intersections. They weren't huge projects, but they needed to be done because they posed safety issues and potential road damage issues if we didn't address them. So they've all been taken care of. They should all be done as far as I'm concerned on the Sunrise. They were wrapping up Belmar. I stopped by yesterday. That was the other emergency job. The 42-inch pipe that was failing, and the inlets that cross under the road that join to the 42-inch pipe. All the joints were leaking, so they had to pretty much break away all the mud, so to speak, and re-pour the bottom, and then redo all the joints at the actual inlet side of it. The contractor did note, and we did take some pictures, which we can share later if you need them. The condition of the inlet, it's probably been there, 25, 30 years. It's starting to get some severe pitting. We're not shouldn't be in any risk of failure, but we don't have a crystal ball, like immediate failure of anything, but it is showing like the acidity of the water that's always sitting in them is starting to eat away at them. So that's just something we're just gonna have to be mindful of. We might need to look into like a proactive program like we do on the manholes, maybe coming in and do some spray lining. But as for the current fiscal year's planned drainage projects, we have a number of locations that need some heavy ditch cleaning. One of them is towards the end of Cortez in the back lots, as you approach Balboa. I don't know if y'all been back there at all, but there's trees and everything. We haven't really done any, I don't say we haven't done any maintenance, but it's been a long time since we've done major maintenance to those back ditches, which some of that's in the SRF drainage program that we've already discussed a couple times. This area is impacting some homeowners that live towards the end of Cortez. And we've been telling them we're going to do something for like 3 years. And this is the year we got it in the budget. So we got a proposal to do it. It's going to involve tree removal out of the back easements and then ditch reshaping to let the water go all the way out to Balboa. We do have some optional ditch cleaning. The contractor quoted us if we need to clean out Balboa along the right of way where the ditch follows. That's also in that quote. So if we don't need to do it, that'll be money we can put back in the budget. Similar thing on Florida Avenue in Unit 2. There's a number that the main ditch that runs behind Florida Avenue and Frontage Road. That's another one that George has tried to do a number of times. He said he's even like rolled some tractors in there trying to get it clean. So he didn't want to risk any damage to any equipment. So that's why we're hiring that ditch cleaning out. It also includes some right-of-way ditch cleaning in Unit 2. Trying to think what's the other area. We also included one of the rear lots between, I think it's Almeria and Bobadou. Let me get the road's name right. Barbarossa. On Unit 5. The rear lot behind there, it's a wet mess. I don't know if y'all are familiar with those ditches, but the first like 5 roads. I don't want to say it was constructed in a very wet area, but it was extremely wet when they built all the roads and everything. And it's the same scenario. We got a lot of trees in the back easement. And we don't have the district staff doesn't have the capability to go in there and remove trees to do maintenance. So that's why we also had that on the list to do. And of course, all the sod, we got all the sod quoted in case we need it. A lot of the places we will, but some of it, like behind Florida Avenue, it's not going to be, it'll be pointless to sod it because it always stays wet. But we've included sod everywhere we could just so we have budget money for it. And that mostly wraps up the main drainage projects we're planning to do this year.
So you're basically asking for $100,000.
Correct.
Well, this is how you want to spend the $100,000 out of the budget.
Correct. I think is it technically 116 with the sod?
With the sod 116.
Oh, with the sod 116?
Yeah. 116.
So
And Supervisor, just for some quick housekeeping with the moving around, I'm not sure if we got a motion and a second on this to discuss this.
Boo-boo?
I thought we had.
But we could do it again.
Yeah, just if we could
I have
clarify.
a motion to discuss
So moved.
capital improvements.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the board about this 100,000 that he wants to spend?
I have a couple of questions for Drew, but not on 100,000, but later, I guess. So, okay.
Anything from the board? Any public comments on this?
That's what we gotta get done.
May I have a vote, please?
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pat Holmes, resident. For the last 20 years, I've been trying to get the drainage taken care of west of the Pink Palace, and it's been to no avail. They come out every couple of years, dig out that drainage ditch there, and it's what it's done. It's backed up in the culvert underneath our driveway. I'm just wondering if that could be also assessed and put into this budget change.
Sir, could I get your name again? I'm sorry.
Pat Holmes.
Pat, okay, thank you. West of the Pink Palace?
Yes, it's where the wetlands is.
Yeah.
It's all wetland right beside it.
Drew, have we looked at that before?
If they could go back in there with a backhoe or something like that and pull it out like they have done on Sun and Lake Boulevard, it would help. Shovels don't work, and what it's done, it's the dirt has backed up into the culvert underneath our parking area, and our parking area is collapsing now.
Drew, can you take a look at that for us?
I can look at it. I think I went out there with Mike a year or two ago. Mike Hurley for the
Yeah.
record. We did look at it. The main reason he asked me to look at there wasn't necessarily the drainage beyond it, but was the culvert underneath their main drive and parking.
Yeah.
I think one of the questions got brought up, who was responsible for the culvert at that time. It wasn't necessarily just that location, but a number of the condos along that road, if the district was responsible or if.
Right. I was there, wasn't I?
I think you were at one of them, yes.
Yeah, I was too.
I believe we told the people at the Pink Palace it was their responsibility.
That's been the general consensus from what I understand from as far as the district's concerned.
But the culvert that Pat is talking about is our responsibility, is it not?
I don't know of any of the district's owned culverts on that road near the Pink Palace. I know we have one on the opposite end.
Yes, I'm not pertaining to the culvert that's underneath there. I'm talking about the drainage because everything drains to the west. And what happens, it stays right there. There's nowhere for the water to drain. The whole street drains that way.
Yeah.
And it's what it does. It stops underneath our culverts. I replaced a box many years ago. I think it was back in 2008, a drainage box there in our parking area. Because at that time, I brought to Sun and Lake and Sun and Lake says it was our responsibility. We understand that. What I'm trying to do is get drainage from underneath, from our culvert into that ditch.
Just take a look at it and
Yeah.
let us know.
All right, we'll look at it, and I think this is going to be tied to another, I don't want to say issue, but another potential problem on the other side of that same wetland, on the triplex that
Right.
with the
Yeah.
maintenance road is connected to. I think this is all going to be tied to the same issue. The only place for the water currently to go is through underneath all the residential driveways as you head west towards Aledo, and then it shoots under the road. Everything, from what we can tell, the elevation of that wetland and all the water is controlled by all those culverts. That's if we need to drain more, we're going to have to lower those culverts or find an alternate route.
Take a look at it. If we could address it before the rainy season, that would be
Okay.
great. If we can't because it's too expensive, we'll have to put it in the budget.
Okay.
So if you can get back to us by second meeting in March, is that fair?
Oh, yeah.
And let us know where we are so we can let Pat know. Any other public comments? Should we vote on the resolution?
Supervisor Phillips?
Yes.
Supervisor Herrick?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks?
Yes.
Drew, I got just
Go ahead.
one quick question. One thing I'd like, and I guess it's for budget purposes this summer, but I think we need to, with what we've had the last few years with the emergency stuff, I was part of having to do some of that. And it's disappointing that when we do the emergency stuff, it comes out of our present budget.
Okay.
And I think we're going to have a lot of this for a while. So, I don't know if we should talk, or maybe you could help us when we come to budget time, that maybe we should increase the drainage budget a little, because when we get done with all this emergency stuff, we have $116,000 left. I mean, it's disappointing, and we're going to have more and more and more of it. So I just think it's something maybe you should bring up, or make sure that I bring it up.
Right.
Because it's very disappointing to only have $116,000 left to do work.
Any comments on that?
Do we have or could you develop a history of the emergency type work that we did for the past X years?
We should be able to. We can go through the records of what we've been going over. I know a lot of it. If we've ever had the chance, we tried to push it to the next budget year to get done if it wasn't like a dire need. But I can try to work with.
Because we really, I would agree that we need to include that in the budget, and it sounds like we need to have some form of
Right.
significant increase.
Right.
But if you can identify what do we normally see in the past
Right.
few years,
Right.
that would give us a better feel for where we need to go.
Correct. It would help give us a number of what we need to allocate for the budget for emergency purposes.
Okay, thank you.
What I'd like to see you do, going on what Mike said, is you take this phase 7 drainage improvements that you've allocated for 22, 23. Don't change that.
Right.
Price that out as you think it would be.
Okay.
And then add on a number, which you can call emergency, or however you want to word it, emergency repairs or what have you,
Okay,
on top of that. And that's what you should present from a budget standpoint.
right.
I agree, because it's just frustrating.
Now, I do have a subject I want to bring up, roads. We have a pavement problem with roads, correct?
You mean the existing work that we've already had done or?
Yeah, the work that we've already got done that's not up to the standards that we should accept.
There are a few areas, yes, that we've identified. I don't know if you've seen the pictures that we took when George and I went out. I do have the contractor he's going to come out and address them. He's going to come out and look at it and figure out a plan to what he needs to do to correct it. But a lot of it is, the main issues that we have are intersection problems. It looks like I don't know the exact reason why it happened, but it looked like we have aggregate coming up already at some of the intersections, like it didn't go down right or whatever when they were paving. Right now, the immediate plan is to mill those areas out and actually come back in and correct them when they remobilize. There's also some areas that there was millings and or chunks of road that was brushed off before they paved that they did not come back and clean. I have brought that to their attention. They are going to come out with crews and come back and rake all that up and haul that away.
Do we have options of other companies?
Yes, we can use any company we want. We just have to put it out to bid.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, I want this company to finish the contract that we have with them, but I want it done correctly.
Correct. And they haven't submitted even a payment request. I don't know.
And I would tell the company that we're going to probably think twice if they don't fix it real quick about using them again. If we
Correct.
have other options available to us.
Correct. Well, most of the time there's a couple other smaller firms in Highlands County that can pave. Generally, they don't take on jobs this big, but most of them are going to be out of county companies, which it's not something we can't do. We can definitely use them. It's just we'd have to put it out to bid and entice them to bid, but we're a relatively small project compared to all the out of county firms.
We've been piggybacking with the county, right?
We've actually got our own contract currently, which is very similar to the other city piggyback contract, which we used before.
I mean, we only hit these roads once every 15, 20 years. So we're not going to go back and fix this. It's got to be done correctly the first time.
Correct. And they do provide a warranty with their work. So if there is issues, they do also come out and warranty the work. But
I'd like to have a report back on next time on what they're doing.
okay.
One other question on Granada, is it Granada near 5801 Granada? There's where you guys did, where they put up a new home and you did ditch work under the street,
Correct. There was
right by the speed bump.
Right.
Right after that now, that pavement is buckled.
Correct.
It's horrible.
KDL is aware of it. The owner, Ken, has let George and I know. I don't know if he's talked directly to Chris yet or not. He does plan on coming back out. We need to let him know sooner than later because I did get a date, an approximate date. They're planning to start either end of March or beginning of April on the rest of the paving.
I mean, you're going to have to close that road down again, right?
Correct. To get in there and fix it. But we wanted to make sure we tried to coordinate that with the paving going on because we didn't want him coming in and trying to fix it after the road had been paved, but he is going to come back and correct it.
I just hope it doesn't get worse. It's pretty bad right now.
Yes, I agree.
And I asked you about 5 months ago to have a road plan going forward. Can I still have that for the board?
I believe,
I didn't get it if you turned it in.
We have a paving plan in place out for
A
5
5-year
years.
road plan.
Yeah.
We have one? Can the board see it?
Yes, sir. We'll bring it back to the next meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions for Drew? Thank you, Drew.
You're welcome.
Good seeing you, Drew.
Supervisor
Okay.
Brooks, real quick, just for housekeeping purposes, the item D, we had a motion and a second, but now it looks like, I think that's being tabled until the next board meeting, correct? Based on the discussion for item
Yes.
D. So we need to have a vote on the table.
I'm sorry.
A motion and a second to table it until next meeting.
So moved to table.
Second.
Vote.
You can call them.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Phillips,
Yes.
Supervisor Herrick,
Yes.
Supervisor Brooks.
Yes. Okay, add-on items. Which I don't know, any add-on items? Petitions and communications.
I just had one and I put a copy on the board. It came out and it was kind of interesting because it was a couple of property owners that were complaining about the golf hazard on hole 5 on Turtle. Of course, the frost killed all the vegetation and it looked bad. And I told them, well, from it being a golf hazard, it looks great to me because no one would want to go in there to retrieve their ball. But it was kind of interesting because they got the real estate aspect and the guy showed me a picture. He goes, this is what I bought when I bought my house and everything. The water was real high and it was all green. And I told him we didn't sell aesthetics and it wasn't his property. And he said, well, maybe we would even participate if you wanted to upgrade it. And I really just wanted to bring it to the board for something I talked to the gentleman about. And I said I would. And I go, but if we go in and landscape this hazard, we'll have people up and down all the streets on all the golf courses asking us to maintain the hazards like their lawn service does to their home. And
It's the freeze.
and the only thought,
It's the freeze that did it.
oh yeah, but he was just talking about it looked unmanicured. And I said, well, you hire lawn service, they edge, clip, cut. This isn't what it is. It's not even a stormwater pond like the other ones. It's a hazard. The only thing I thought about is I was going to approach the university and see if they had some environmental people that could take a look at it and say, oh, you could put these natural plants in here and do this and do that. And the homeowner said they'd actually chip in to pay for it. Of course, when someone chips in and pays for it, then they have expectations that you're going to maintain it. So I just wanted to let the board know. I know Jimmy may have some comments too. He talked to the owner also, but that's just some of the complaints and inquiries we get, and we go out and talk to homeowners about it.
Okay, any comments? Staff reports.
Good morning, supervisors.
You sure you want to do this?
I don't know. I don't think you probably should say anything unless you have to. I don't know what you have, but it doesn't sound good.
Make sure we.
Doesn't feel good. I'll send my staff report in an email.
Okay.
If that's
There you go.
I do have one thing that I want to bring up, and Ariel's aware of that. I got a call from a resident the other day who, him and his wife, who are members of the golf club, tried to take their, I think, in-laws, or I don't know who, 2 people to the shuffleboard court. And so they could play shuffleboard. And our policy, right or wrong, states that for the guests, they have to buy a $25 membership, monthly membership, right? Is that correct? I'm saying that correctly? And the guy just about flipped when he heard that it was going to cost $50 for this couple to play shuffleboard with him for one day. And I checked the policy, and that is the policy that we approved. And our swimming pool policy says you could have guests at $5 a day. And I think if the situation presents itself again, we can, and then we'll discuss this at a budget meeting, but I think $25 is ridiculous. I think $25 for people who live in Highlands County who are not members of Sun and Lake, that's fine. But if somebody has a guest from out of town, $25 for one day is asking a bit much.
$25 a month. If you want to.
It's a monthly pass, but you got to pay
Yeah.
$25.
But you can fix that easily by doing a day rate.
That's what I'm asking.
so.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like to see us impose like the pool.
We, for the previous year, for this budget year, in the recreation rates, we removed the day pass. That was something that was included.
Right.
The reason we did that was because the number of day passes that were actually utilized and sold, bought, whatever, was so low that it was basically at a point where it was almost costing us money because we were giving them a card that was almost as much as the day pass in order to get in. My opinion, there were obviously reasons for us presenting that, and it seemed to be good enough reasons that it was approved. My suggestion would be, if there are residents who can utilize it for free now, right? If you're a resident and you want to bring a guest, I genuinely don't care if that guest doesn't pay. My biggest concern is that they sign the waiver. So before I would recommend that we bring back a day pass because they were genuinely a waste of money for us, I think that we would be best suited to say, look, you're a resident of Sun and Lake. This is something you get for free. If you have a visiting guest and you would like them to be able to come with you, go down to the recreation office, sign the waiver of liability to go and use the facility and enjoy it with your resident before I would recommend reinstituting the day passes, because this is actually the second time we've taken out the day passes for Racket Club. And a lot of that stemmed from saying, okay, well, now it's free to residents.
Any comments on that?
Yeah, I have, as Ariel knows and Chris, that I complained about this about 2, 3 months ago. Because 3 of those $5 passes last year were my family. And we go over there and play shuffleboard, but the people that live in the car streets, the relation, we went to do it again this year and they had to pay $50. And I gotta tell you, I do not remember approving this because I would have objected for one day because they live here and they're not gonna play 5 times a month. I mean, they're just not gonna. And so we played and they didn't come. And they said, well, just bring them in. Well, I'm not gonna bring anybody I know free if we got a rule, but I think we should address that this year because I do not remember passing
I remember the discussion and removing the $5 day pass.
Yeah.
I remember the discussion. Maybe, something that we could consider, like we have the golf cart where you got 10 times you can get something. 10 times that you can have a guest in there. Just punch it, be on with it.
Because so my family don't mind paying $5, but it was to ask them to pay $50 and we played maybe once a month.
I genuinely think that if you are accompanied by a resident, right, who is a member,
Yeah,
who
I
has
like
signed
that.
up,
I like that.
I don't have any problem if they've signed the waiver of liability. To me, it's nothing but.
So-
But we have maintenance on those courts.
Mhm.
And that costs money. And you can't I can't bring a guest on the golf course and I'm a member of the club.
Right.
Without paying a hefty fee. I like the idea of a punch pass,
Okay.
a 10-day punch pass.
Included or purchased. But the reason I ask is because the cards, genuinely the cards are about $3.50 each. We were charging $5 for a day pass, but you're getting a card. So we were basically making $1.50 on these day passes.
You were using, you spend that much in your
I think,
labor.
I think the amount of money that we're talking about is not really a huge amount. And I think to make people happy and to waive it is probably, in my opinion, the way to go. I know people are using it theoretically are not signed up. I mean, I know that for a fact. So some people are going, this guy went through the proper channels. Was shocked when he found out how much it was going to cost him. I know there are people who are just going on the shuffleboard courts with relatives and not paying.
Yeah, I did it the right way too, but it's just, I was shocked when
So I would like to see us waive it and then have a conversation during the budget process when we go through
Yeah.
your.
So to answer your question, Supervisor Phillips, the shuffleboard is included in Racket Club altogether. So if you have a Racket Club membership, you have the availability to play pickleball, tennis, or shuffleboard. So shuffleboard is not segmented out on its own. What we can do is we can kind of brainstorm on how that might look and what the language for that might be. Because in my opinion, if you were going to bring a guest, that guest should have to be accompanied by a resident or a member. Otherwise, you might as well take the gates down and let it be a free-for-all because that's virtually what you'd be doing. So we can work on.
But it is now.
And it honestly, it will be unless you are willing to put a structure there to have a manned facility. There's only so much you can do.
Right.
So we will work on verbiage to come back and say, this is what we think that verbiage should look like, so that we have said on our end, you must be accompanied by a resident who is a member of the racket club. Now, great thing there is a resident of the resident member of the racket club. It's free, so great. But that would make sure on our end that we're doing our due diligence to get them down to the recreation office to sign a waiver, because that's honestly what
That's
was
what it
concerned
is.
about.
Thank you.
And remember, we've got 300 new houses coming in, so the racquetball, I mean, that whole area is going to increase in use.
For the time being, I'd like to, oh, I can't make a motion. Somebody say something. I'd like to see us waive it until we get to budget conversations. I don't think, nobody may even come and ask for it.
Possibly not.
I mean, you know, Gilpin's residents or his friends already left, so he may not come back.
Yeah,
I
well,
make a motion that we eliminate the $25. No, that we allow residents to bring a guest in
Okay, right.
at no charge,
Okay, so are you okay with that being resident members?
resident members,
And they have to sign a waiver, right?
and they have to sign a waiver. And then they can,
Do I have a second on that?
Second,
Any comments? Any public comments? We have a vote, please.
Sure, I'll help. I don't know who, I'm just gonna guess who to start with. Okay, Supervisor Gilpin,
yes.
Supervisor Phillips, Supervisor Herrick.
Yes.
President Brooks.
Yes. Okay,
just one quick, in your staff report, are you going to be addressing CPR classes?
Yes, I
Thank you.
am.
who's next? Any other questions for Ariel? Okay, who's next?
Joseph Sleva, Supervisor of Utilities. For the month of February, we performed 6 new water and wastewater connections with 4 more scheduled this month. We've also performed 16 underground utility locates, 6 low-pressure sewer calls during working hours, 7 low-pressure sewer calls after hours. 5 of those was on one Saturday. The technician was on site for 9 hours by himself. He did not ask for help. And there has been 4 other after-hour calls, emergency water turnoffs, meter repairs, etc. And also, we have purchased a 4-inch Camstrup ultrasonic meter for Tanglewood RV master meter. The headwork consists of 2 4-inch meters. One of the original mechanical meters has stopped working. The other is already an ultrasonic meter. Currently, the mechanical meter side is shut down and locked. At this time, there's no complaints of pressure from residents, but if the hydrant needs to be opened, or if there's any line breaks, it could be a potential water loss in that area that the meters supply. The new meter will also have extremely accurate low flows, which will help meter water loss and generate revenue.
Okay, this is another example of why we need to, is this on the website? I'm not trying to pick on you now, but this is another example of we got to do a better job of communicating. We need to know this before you verbally go over it. Or, I mean, what you just said is probably great, but I don't think any of us knew what you were talking about. So that's why we need things on the website, or we need things to be handed out to us so we can at least look at them. And not just picking on you, this is for everybody. Anybody who's in charge of a committee, who's going to make a presentation to the board, it's either on the website or it's a handout if you expect us to really follow it.
I would prefer a paper copy of what you intend to discuss at your staff, for your staff reports.
Me too.
We'll go with paper copies
Thank you.
going forward, please. But we appreciate the fact that you took the time to write it out and do it. Trust me.
And that's utility business as usual. And I'll add, we had 2 insurance claims related to the utility department. One, the lady said she fell in the little metal piece that was missing from a meter box in front of the commercial property at the dentist's office. It's only about 6 inches by 4 inches, so I'm not quite sure how she walked out and decided to put her foot on it. But we turned it over to the insurance company and we had another one on a condominium, 2-story, and the people left and asked us to turn the water off. And there was another adjacent turn on, and typically that meter goes to that unit, and the tech went out and turned on the wrong meter. So it had water damage in that apartment. We'll be liable for that. And some of that's our training, because they look at it and go, yeah, that's typically what it is. Well, they didn't look down at the meter number, they just turned it. So, but we'll end up doing a payout. And it kind of shows that meter boxes have a lot of exposure and liability.
Right.
Next.
Good morning, Supervisors. Just gave you all the handout this morning. The only thing that I really have that's really bearing is next Wednesday, Chris and I are going to meet with GT Irrigation and do the signing of the contract. He's also going to do the site visit. We're going to give him the proposal. I want him to start from the pump house and work back to number 1. I think it makes more sense to work from the pump house out. And then also go over some scheduling, how we want to do it, explain to him how we want to do keep 27 holes open, or at least 9 holes on Deer at all times. Talked with Andy and Mike. I think if we have tournaments on the weekend, I want to be able to open up on Saturday or Sunday. So I don't know whether we limit him to Monday through Friday working. I think that's totally up to what you guys recommend. I know that Andy has a couple of weekends that he needs the golf course on Saturday.
It would seem to me like we ought to be able to give it to him on an exception basis. And if he wants to work Saturdays, then work Saturdays, or whatever he wants to work. We can provide those days that he can't.
Okay, that's, I just want to get everything clarified next Wednesday before it. If you got anyone who'd like to attend, you're more than welcome. It's at 2:00 next Wednesday afternoon. I think Chris is generating a letter of intent as well for Carl. That'll be done. The only thing that right now with the price of fuel, what it's doing right now, I think we need to jump on the pipe and get it purchased. I talked to Andrew this morning, and it's definitely going to go up. I know we're in agreement. Everything's in agreement. So what I asked Chris this morning is we just need to figure out when to pay it, when we want to get it done. And as far as the only thing I want to know is whether it's got to be all up front or whether we could do it in 3 installments or whatever. I want to get all that clarified on Wednesday as well, so that you all know. If we can keep from pulling out a large lump sum, I'd rather do that. But I mean, the wires should be fine as well, but the pipe is it's gonna go off the chart.
Didn't we approve you getting the pipe?
Yes, ma'am.
I thought we had 2.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. All I'm saying is that I just wanted to go on and go through the purchase to get it done. And so Chris and I will, the only thing I want to do Wednesday is him ride the property. If there's a savings we can do on some routing, I want to try to save that. And so we actually can quantify everything next Wednesday. If he's got to stay over Wednesday night, we do it again Thursday morning. I just want everything measured. I don't want to have any excess pipe or anything like that. I just want to try to save some money if we can. He did bring up the swing joints attachments that we were talking about. There could possibly be a savings of $35,000 currently just going through the itemized items on it. It's just a different one. The whole thing was that the meters or the valves that they were putting in were not serviceable for me. So I think it makes more sense to have one that we can repair without having to cut into the lines to do it. So all this HDPE pipe has to be heat shrinked in. It's welded in. So we want to have something that's serviceable that I can repair. So we'll have more on that Wednesday, but like I said, we'll give you a report on that. But I think that's about all I have as far as that goes on the irrigation.
Anything else?
Just what was on my report.
I got a question for you. I assume, did everybody tour this past week with these guys?
Yeah.
Like they asked?
Yep.
Anything come out of it?
As far as
Well, you rode around with each of us.
So we're going to work, really the biggest thing is going to be working on that bunker on hole 18 on Deer. That I'm still trying to get with Andy. I'm going to work on it, like I said, 2 to 3 hours a day. whatever we can do to get that bunker at least repaired what it is right now. The bunker that's existing right now down to the bulkhead, get the white sand in it this summer. And when we're closed, I'll extend it around the back of it like we had spoke about.
So we're still planning on going ahead with that because it's not,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still trying to work with Andy on that. I did put the sod already behind the building. I did that yesterday. We planted the plants like we were talking about to deter the cars from parking on the grass back there. I mean, it's busy right now, so they'll park anywhere they can.
And the gate,
The gate, we've met with the Booker fence and we will have pricing on that this week.
and it's gonna be a white gate?
Yes, ma'am.
this for the fence in the back? Are we
Yes,
talking about?
sir.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, I don't know if you may know, you may not know. I asked these guys to price out what it would cost for budget purposes, what it would cost to paint the building, the clubhouse, and I guess the side building
Yes, sir.
near the shuffleboard courts. And I also asked them to price out if we took the blue tile down and replaced it with a rock
The stone face.
stone face
Yeah.
facade, I guess, whatever you want to call it. So they're going to price that out for the budget conversation. We may not be able to do any of it, but I thought in making the building look more presentable would be something to pursue.
Yes, sir. And we're still gonna do that. And Mike's got a gutter above his window that we're gonna try to get fixed, because I don't know whether you've ever been in Mike's office when it's raining, but it's pouring in his office just as well. So we need to look at getting that fixed because it's causing damage to his office and who knows what it's doing inside the wall.
Anything else?
We are still going to pressure wash and refresh this summer
Yeah,
in-house?
yes, and we're gonna still do the block like we talked about out back. We've already started that. We've utilized every part that we have, and I've taken, and trimmed all the hedges down to, windowsill height as well on the back. And then, like I said, we put a pallet and a half of sod down yesterday on it, on the back.
Anything else for Jimmy?
No, sir.
Huh?
Well, as soon as you get done pressure washing,
It's gonna look worse.
you're gonna make it look 10 times worse than
Well,
it
then
is.
he needs to paint in-house. We've done
Well,
that before.
but that's not a small project. That is, I don't know what kind of cost.
Yeah, we need to
they would
know how
estimate
much.
The cost is, because that's a lot of paint, and it's not just necessarily easy painting either. It's,
So, Mr. Herrick, are you asking me to just hold off on the pressure washing and then get a price on the
all
painting?
I'm saying is, once you get done pressure washing, it's gonna look
I
terrible.
agree with you.
Well, in that case, I would think I agree with Mr. Herrick that until we're in a position to fund the painting,
Let's hold off.
we probably should not make the building look worse.
I agree. That's totally fine, because the way that it will work out, we got time to make that happen, so. But we're not gonna pressure wash tomorrow, so.
The clubhouse until after budget. Right?
Well, either way, we would know, I mean, we'll have a number before budget time. I mean, we're not gonna do it probably for a month or two before we do it. so.
Yeah, if we can get it in, if the cost is reasonable to where we can find the funding, I'm fine with pressure washing and getting it painted. But right now, I want to know how much that's going to cost to paint that.
Absolutely. We'll have all that before anything happens.
I agree, and that's why I said this would be a budget conversation. I just asked them to get the pricing for us.
And I heard that, but then I heard that we're going to pressure wash it. As
Let's
soon as
hope.
you do that, then you got it.
I would agree. Let's hold on the pressure washing until we have the budget conversation on the painting.
All right. Good morning again, supervisors. We kind of covered a bunch of stuff already on my report. As always, I just wanted to, we're at about 1.2 million at membership revenue. It's 250,000 ahead of last year. It's about 94% of our budget. So we're creeping up on that. And like I said, I think we're going to be really close to hitting it right on the number. But we'll see. Just really for us on the golf side and the restaurant side, we've been super busy the past week or two. We've had We had the big realtor banquet, we had the MGA couples tournament and dinner, Valentine's dinner, and we had the WGA member guest all in a 7-day period. So there's a lot of tournaments and a lot of stuff going on in the restaurant, plus all regular play, regular dining and all that. So just kind of keeping our heads down and being super, super busy the last well, at least the last week for sure. But I know we've had a couple days where we've hit over 500 rounds of golf, which is probably a record. The biggest number I've ever heard was 500 at one time. So we have been over 500 a couple times the last few weeks. So just kind of keeping our head down, digging, just taking care of the day to day. And I know we have plenty of projects kind of scheduled, but in about another month or so, we'll be able to start tackling some more stuff. As we said, we met with Brooker Fence. We'll have those numbers. That's something I'm just hoping that we can fit right into our budget as normal maintenance. The biggest thing, just cleaning up around the clubhouse, that we did have some new flowers put in the front. I think they were there probably when everybody was walking around, but just to let you know kind of the thought there, about every 3-4 months, we're going to actually replace those with some fresh seasonal flowers. So, you know, the stuff that we had before looked really good in the fall, then I got to winter and obviously need to be replaced. So you're going to see that probably every 3 to 4 months to keep it fresh, make it look good all the time. But that's all I have for you guys today. If you have any questions for me.
Questions, Mike? Yes. I spoke to you about this. I went to
Right.
the Weinstein thing, went to see a show, and I saw our ad here. And it really just says to call. It doesn't tell us.
Address.
It doesn't say it's part of Sun and Lake. It doesn't give you an address.
Yeah, we're going to go through and update that. I mean, actually, I had a conversation with Mr. Herrick about that
This
before.
is for you.
Yeah,
You can
I'll
have
take it.
I mean, I don't know who checks our ads, but this is horrible. No identification of Sun and Lake at all. So hopefully that'll be changed going forward.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we'll definitely.
And I do have a question. Jimmy, I forgot to ask you this. There was almost a car accident the other day with somebody going from the driving range to Deer number 1 because there was one of your guys was coming like down the road and there was almost a collision because the hedges are so high at that corner, nobody can see anything. No, it's the hedges at the corner of, if I'm going from the driving range and then I make a right to the gold tees, right there at that corner, if you're going, whichever way you're going, you can't see what's coming the other way. So the hedges need to be trimmed because there was almost an accident the other day.
Yeah, there was a lot of those calypsos that were put up. Some of them either need to be cut down or removed because they are, you can't see through them.
Yeah.
I think we need to put some low growing.
So that needs to be addressed because like I said, there was 2 guys almost collided with your cart, one of your carts. So
I call them signature plants. I don't know if that's what, are they going to be, will they come back after this freeze or are they gone?
You know, I was riding this morning. I was looking at even some of the foxtails, like the ones behind 5T and stuff. I mean, to be honest with you, it's going to be questionable. Those are all tropical plants. And I mean, those foxtails were 15, 16 feet. So at that point, if the green can come, I don't want to cut anything off of them yet. I mean, I figure March 15th, we'll try to get on it. But I think we're going to have quite a bit of loss, unfortunately.
And also, you guys should know that we discussed the driving range mat that we lost, that piece. And instead of him doing all of the work that he was suggesting, moving the rocks and everything, I just said, go buy a piece and place it there. Because it's really out of the way. It doesn't affect anybody using the mats.
Okay.
And instead of using all that labor and stuff to move everything around, just put a piece in and call it a day. So you guys okay with that?
Golfing buddies keep their ears open as to who's got this new practice mat.
Yeah, I mean, that's another issue. Do we need a camera? Do we have any cameras out there?
No.
Is that something we need to?
I don't.
I think we should have one off of at least the district building facing that way. Just like you said, if somebody has an accident, I mean, at least we could, I mean, not that we ever want it to happen, but I just think it would cover that.
But at
Night, when this happens, you know, being dark, are we going to be able to identify anything? Except that there was somebody out there cutting it out?
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to cover everything out there for sure without having a bunch of cameras. But I mean,
But what, even if you had the camera, I mean, I've got cameras up, and when it's dark out, I can see that something's going on. I knew it was a bear, but that's only because
It's so big.
Yeah, you're correct. And all of our other cameras, I mean, unless you're right close to it, you can't tell what's going on.
So we're at the mercy of, okay. Just an idea. At least they cut it out nice. Well, I mean, it could have been a Jagger. They were very precision, like they took their time and did it correctly. So anything else for these guys? Okay, who's next? Thank you. Any more? Well, we haven't done,
Good thing, Bob.
Security.
security.
Hey,
Yeah, Bob, you're up.
make sure you speak into the
Yeah, you
mic.
gotta say your name and,
My name?
yeah.
Bob Hiltz was my
Thank
name. Chris asked me or inquired that we had an inquiry about a speed bump at the end of Matanzas, that other side where there isn't one. There are at the beginning, but there aren't in the end. And we did do a traffic study, and I did bring one for each one of you if you'd like that
Okay.
now.
Yeah, please. Can we have it now?
Yes, I do.
So we can look at it with you? I
Thank
think
you.
I probably got one, but, okay, thank
Now
you.
you have two.
Now I have two.
Thank you.
Eyes. And as you can see, it was a total of 1,645 readings. That isn't cars, that's readings. And over the speed limit, there was a total of 524. And the average speed during our study, approaching the speed trailer was 19.32, and driving away from the speed trailer, the average speed was 19.15 miles an hour. There were a couple readings. There was one reading at 45 mile an hour plus at going away. And there were two readings approaching the sign at 45 miles an hour plus. But it only comes out to that 85 percentile at 29% of people traveling in excess of 25 miles an hour.
So what would your recommendation be?
There's just not enough there. Usually we want 50% before. That's what Drew, let me keep my eyes up. Drew usually said when we did the 85 percentile that he likes it up near 50% to justify the cost, because those things cost $2,000 a piece. And when we do put them, we put one at each end. So that's $4,000 is what it costs the district to put them out, plus the labor.
So if I'm reading this right, there's 30% exceeding the speed limit. Is that correct? 28.26.
Yes. That's one way. That's going one way.
Oh, okay.
One way is opposing, the other page is approaching.
Oh, so 19.51?
Yeah, the average speed was 19.15 going away, and approaching the sign was 19.132. That was the average miles per hour.
Any comments? His recommendation is not to do it.
And I'll accept that. The travel, you said one's going at it, one's going away from it?
Yes.
It says the travel direction is north.
That's me, because I don't change the direction for the, when I prepare the report.
Okay,
That's just my error.
okay.
That's me.
Any other comments?
If it didn't meet the expectation.
Do we have to vote on this?
Public comment?
No?
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. All right. Anything else you want to ask Bob pertaining to anything? Public comments?
Jim Service resident, I wouldn't mind if you ever get a speed bump, that it's right in front of my house. I want to reiterate that the sign that was put out, or the speed sign that was put out, excuse me, was 2/3 of the way down Matanzas to the west, when most of the traffic is east of that, and that's where most of the people exit. They exit east to go to Schumacher, more or less. They don't exit to, I can't think of the street, Cortez. Yeah. There's a lot more speeding than that goes on. And especially the fact that we have a lot of golf carts. I said this 6 months ago in one of the other studies. I wonder if the study takes into account that there's a heck of a lot of golf carts that are only doing, like mine, 19 miles an hour, other carts 15 miles an hour. So first of all, the sign was in the wrong place to catch the speeders that I see every day. Thank you.
All right, let me, sure.
Yeah.
I'm appreciate what the gentleman has to say, but when we place the sign, we have to place the sign either in our easement or on our property. We can't place our traffic sign on private property. So I have to take the best vantage point to place the sign when I put it there.
If you took out,
Well, if you let me put it on your property.
Wait, this is not how we conduct the meeting.
Okay.
something here just kind of popped out at me that in the speed of 1 to 19, you got 559 one way and 490 the other way. My suggestion to be that 1 to 19 is probably golf carts. If we took that out of the scenario, because only, you're talking 48% of the traffic is running under 20 miles an hour.
Greg, I agree, but I don't know how much golf carts are there. I can tell you under 20 is several times as me, but because I do under 20 there, but, and I'm not saying we shouldn't try it again, but there's not a lot of golf carts down that area. But, it's, if we all want to move it and do it different again, but it just seems, I don't have an answer, but.
I agree. Golf carts, it was an issue last time we had this conversation on speed bumps.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any way to get around the traffic of golf carts when we do these tests. So then it just becomes a judgment call on whether it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do.
Would the board like me, if upon his permission, to place it on his property like he suggests and do another study for next month, I can do that.
You okay with that? Jim, would you be okay with placing it? All right, then why don't we do this? Why don't we place it on his property?
And you understand it is Doppler radar, and Doppler radar is not perfect. If you're riding a bicycle, it's going to pick you up. If it's a golf cart, it's going to pick you up.
I understand. I think we understand that.
It will be consistent with what you put.
Yes.
Let's put it on his property, give it a run, compare it to this and see what we got.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Would that be acceptable to you, Mr. Jim?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? Any other public comments for Bob? Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Where am I?
My turn.
General counsel report.
Okay, so we had, after Mr. Laconi's passing, we had our litigation thing. So we've retained counsel for litigation for the Castro matter. Mark Sessoms is going to be handling that. I have a Zoom meeting with him later this afternoon. He has already been retained. So hopefully we're going to come to a quick resolution on that. He's reviewed the files and is going to be, today's discussion is going to be how we're going to move forward with concluding that matter, hopefully. Some of the other litigation, I've talked to Cliff Rhodes' office. He's agreed to review those files and will most likely be accepting them. That's the Avanti suit. There's the primary one, our water meter suit. And we have a couple other suits regarding the bondholder, bondholder issues that are currently in litigation. So he's going to be looking at those and we'll be taking those over as well. Regarding all of the demand letters that went out, deeds have been trickling in as well. And I've also been informed by the bondholder that they've been receiving payments. So I don't have one way or the other to tell you how many, but I think personally, I've recorded, I think 7 or 8 different deeds for properties that were, have been turned over to the bondholder. So we, at some point in the future, we'll be getting direction from the bondholder about how many foreclosure actions they'll be wanting to pursue, and we'll bring that to the board once they make that decision. Chris wanted me to remind you, I guess, Mr. Herrick and Mr. Hoteling, there's financial disclosure forms that need to go. Does anybody else need to do those?
All the board members need to do them yearly, but they're due in June, and we'll send them a copy with the background information.
Oh, that's for the county? We do that every year.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the Ethics Commission, it goes to the state.
Do we do another one? Because I turned mine in, or,
Oh, no, if you turn yours in, but they're yearly.
Every year.
yeah, I just did it in
Okay.
January or something.
Yeah, just a reminder.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you have to do it every year.
I
And
mean, I did it last summer.
I just, Craig, go there and just, you ask them for last year's and fill it out. But you have to go down there. It's a pain. It's a pain.
And Mr. Hoteling has to fill one out because if you leave a board within 60 days, you have to file one of those reports. And because you're taking a new seat.
Where do I have to go?
Peggy Ogg's office, or is that Peggy now?
We'll send it over to you.
Yeah,
It's just a form you fill out.
I know I have not.
yeah.
I have not either.
The only other thing I've got is you guys got my memo on the URF fund, capital improvement fund, if there's any questions on that.
Right.
Other than that, it's all I've got.
What about the Granada property?
5801 Granada, I have not heard anything, but I'll make sure to follow up with that Beverly at the county because she's the one that's handling that now, so.
Okay.
Dave, in one of our meetings that Chris and I had with the county staff, Tanya mentioned, I think that there might be another sale in January. Did they have one of Sun Lake property, or?
I haven't been informed of one, I'm not
You
sure.
haven't?
I haven't heard anything,
Okay,
so.
okay. Would you know that if they did?
I have to just look and see what the announcement would be. I can call and ask them.
Yeah, why don't you ask if it's when and if they're gonna do, because, but she told me back in October, I think, Chris, when you and I met with them, that they were gonna maybe do another sale in January. Well,
We have had an uptick in the office with people calling about assessments and bonds on.
yeah, see, it might be out, but if you could find, one of you could find out for me. Okay, thank you.
Anything else, David?
That's all I've got.
Before we go on to Chris, I did have, I'm looking at my notes here. Hey, Mike, one question for you, please. On your weekly report that you send out, you've not been able to report any labor since January the 10th.
Yes, and I share with your frustration with that. So Indigo and the Troon merger, they have gone to a new payroll system. So obviously with all those companies together, they have a lot of clubs. So that reporting function on that payroll system is not up and running yet. So I've been very voiceful that I want to get that going.
This is all on your end.
This is on the Indigo Troon end, yes.
Okay.
And I can't stand not being able to run those numbers because I'm controlling, but, so I'm very adamant on getting it going, so.
All right, thank you. Chris?
Just a couple items. I had mentioned before the regional or the Heartland Regional Transportation Authority. It's a poster child of bureaucracy, but they control projects in this area for DOT funding and that type of thing. And their next meeting will be March 14th, and I'll be in attendance there. There's typically 1 or 2 county commissioners from each county there also. And I think they have more staff that attends the meeting than they do board members and other folks, but I'll do that. I also did a walkthrough with the president just in general on the golf club and restaurant in that area. And one thing that had been identified previously that is negative to the working conditions is the overhead, call it the air conditioning, air recirculation unit over the cooking area, does not work well. I'd hate to see what it was like during the summer. Dan mentioned to me it was something that needed to be addressed. Evidently, when they put that system in with the kitchen remodel, they tried a few things to cut some corners, and so all they've done is delayed the expenditure. I have Miller Air coming in to do an evaluation, and I'll have another company come in and see what the price tag will be on a fix.
I thought we'd had that done once already,
No.
because I know it was very, very costly. I mean, that's all I know.
Dan, I shared some communication that I had from Dan. This is back till March or April is when he started checking this out, and they never got back to him with the actual price of what it would take to replace it. And then with the transition, everything kind of got dropped.
I just remembered that the guy would not, he went to Hawaii or something, and he couldn't get back, but he told Dan that it's going to be very, very expensive to do that.
I'm sure it will. That's why I'm getting another company to come in and take a look at it too. And there was a lot of correspondence coming through, and Dan mentioned to me, he goes, well, this is something we'll need to look at going into the summer, but it's something we're going to look at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to find out what it is, and then we'll make a call based on what we find out.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, I got a couple of things that Chris and I had a conversation on his committees. We think that committee reports probably are only necessary one time a month as opposed to doing it every meeting.
Okay.
So we'd like to do that if that's okay with everybody.
Committee reports or staff reports?
Staff report.
Staff
Oh,
report.
staff, okay.
I mean, unless they have something significant just to go through the motions.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's cool, because if I have a question, I go talk to him. I mean, I know, that's why I don't have many questions for you, because I talk to you between the meetings. I mean, that's what we should do anyway,
So
instead of doing it here.
So we'll make official meetings. The second meeting of the month is what you want?
Yes, sir. Those reports will be the second. That'll give us time too, because a lot of times with agenda items in the first meeting, they're due several days in the previous month, and with financial reports and that, they're just finishing those up.
All right, Chris, can you give us an update on people, or how many people have applied for the board opening position?
Are we there yet? Okay.
Huh?
Oh, I thought it was down here.
Yeah, we have that on.
Was it? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's down farther in there, but that's all right. We can do it now.
Do it now.
And as of yesterday, we have one official paperwork filed. Francis Johnson, who ran against Mr. Herrick for the landowner seat, he's interested, and he expressed to me he'd like to meet and talk to some of the board members one-on-one. And I said, well, I'll look at some schedules, but I also said there'll be some board members at the new resident meet and greet, and it may be an opportunity to come say hello and on a more informal basis.
Well, so we have one person at this point.
At this point, and I hope to, hopefully a few, we have it on the website. We have a placard up over at the golf club and the restaurant. And,
You also have a verbal.
oh, yes. Yeah, I'm just pushing for the paperwork because we said you have to have a letter of interest and,
So you have a verbal from somebody else?
Yeah.
Well, here's the situation. Our next meeting is when we're supposed to make a final decision.
right.
So I would ask if we have more than one person. Well, either way, if we have a person that nobody knows, which I believe is the case with Mr. Johnson, you should get us his information so the board members have, if they'd like, have the opportunity to contact him and set up a meeting to meet him.
Sure.
Is he going to be at the meet and greet? Did he say?
He said he could. I asked him to come to the meeting today to introduce himself, and he had a previous commitment, but he said he could come to the meet and greet. And I also asked him about coming, of course, attending the March 4th meeting. And I was going to put his name in the applications in on the first.
Would be nice if he attended this meeting. I don't believe he's attended. Huh? I would like the opportunity to talk to him, and I don't necessarily want to do it at the meet and greet. I don't think that's the place to do an interview.
Well, that's what they're supposed to be here March 4th to present themselves to us, which time we should be able to ask the question. correct?
Correct.
Isn't that how we set it up? I mean, I guess you could do it prior to that also, but,
Greg, everybody before, like, we approved, I met with Beverly, I met with Ray when we picked it. And I think if they really are interested, they should get a hold of us or we, and us talk to them, because I know Ray called me. And if they're interested, they should call us or we should meet with them.
Yeah,
And then have
I'll
them
facilitate that.
talk here at the.
Let's do it that way. Why don't you communicate with this gentleman and say that the board members, if he's interested in talking to us before March 4th, give him our information and tell him to get hold of us.
Just a reminder that the Sunshine Law still applies as a potential candidate.
Yes.
Just a reminder.
Just one at a time, right? Only one of us.
Correct, yeah, one at a time. But even like say the discussions, you can't ask a potential candidate, how are you going to vote on, if we appoint you, what's your position on X, there's something that's going to come before the board to vote.
Good point.
well, then, should he even? I'm thinking about the meet and greet that we're talking about with the new residents. With all of us being there,
Well, you can
does
ask.
that create a problem?
He can talk about his, what he's done in the past. He just can't, and he can tell about what his concerns are. But the big thing is you can't be discussing specifically, yeah.
Right.
I'm not so sure that meet and greet, that meeting or that get together is appropriate for somebody to come and introduce himself because he wants to run for the board. I thought the function or the reason for that meeting is for people who are new residents to learn about Sun and Lake and to meet the Board of Supervisors.
He is a new resident, but.
Oh, he can come as a new resident, but I think introducing him as a potential board member, that's not what the meeting is for.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, he can get up and talk. I mean, he can say what he wants to say and he can state that he's put his name in for consideration. And that's just another reminder, based on the changes that we made to the ordinance, it is no longer a requirement that this position be filled. And even if it is filled, it's only filled until November, at which point there'll be an election.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, at this get together, we asked whomever is attending if they have any questions for the board. We don't ask them to get up and give us any additional information, do we? Am I not saying that right? I don't think you should get up and tell and speak at the meeting. How's that?
That was not the intention at all. It was really, you're just there in a social situation.
Yes, he's a new resident. By all means, he's allowed to attend the meeting.
You
or
can see his
to get
face and go,
together.
that's the guy. He's a nice gentleman.
He can come up and introduce himself to anybody he wants. That's fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of the meet and greet, have we had quite a few people sign up?
I think there's 75.
We're expecting around 75.
Yeah.
Is to be the,
That's a big room.
and we have upped the food order for this year to roughly about 100. So we should have plenty of food for everyone.
Wow, that's more people than we've ever had, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we got a lot more.
We've had a lot, yeah, we've got a lot of new residents. We've had
Yes,
a lot
we
of
do.
folks moving into Sun and Lake this year. So it's definitely going to be a much larger event than we've seen in the past.
You better get your voice set for that.
Maybe I'll keep it going.
Don't forget the utensils.
You got it.
Chris, I got a question for you. I talked to you briefly about it, but I didn't ask. Can you do anything with Duke Energy about getting this area? Ask them about, because, during the hurricane, we were the last ones to get hooked up, and then Super Bowl day, we lost it for like 7 hours, just for no reason at all.
Sure.
I mean, and the guy told me, he said this whole area around here is terrible. So I don't want any special treatment, but if our area is, he said shambles is what he said. The word was shambles. The whole area in utility and electric is, and I'm sure it's not just here, it's probably all over Sun and Lake. So,
I didn't lose power at all.
yeah, well, no, I think it was just our area, Granada and Matanzas was just a couple houses down, didn't lose it, but the golf villas and
It's
and
more,
us.
it's more towards
And he did,
Is it?
he was trying to be honest and said Sun Lake is, and your area in particular is just a mess.
Yes, and I stopped and talked to their crews. They were drilling some new conduit in and replacing services over off Villabella in that area, another older area. And I said, why are you doing the work? And he goes, because it doesn't work.
Yeah, I just,
I have a contact there and I'll do it, but I'll tell you what, a lot of times, you know, me addressing it from Sun and Lake to residents calling in and making service and complaints. All of a sudden that pops up on their board more than just one phone call.
yeah, I want to complain as a citizen, not as a supervisor, but I think it's needed because I'm not kidding you. Nobody hit a telephone pole, nobody hit nothing. It just went. And we didn't get it back till
See
8
what you
o'clock.
can find out for him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. I've got a contact there.
Okay,
I
thank
got-
you.
I got two more things for you. One, just to reiterate, we are still missing lots of reports on golf in the district. According to my records, we're missing November, December, and January golf reports, financials, excuse me.
Right.
And then when I say that, I don't mean the way that you're trying to send it out to us. I mean the correct way that you can read them.
Right.
And the district, I got December last night or yesterday, but I've never seen October or November. So we're missing those too. And I would like to get them to where we can have at least questions and answers from the board on our performance, because right now we haven't seen any numbers. So that needs to be worked on, and that information needs to be gotten to us as quickly as possible.
Right. Yeah, and I'll follow up with that. I know that they had the November, they sent the December, and Amanda was waiting to incorporate the golf financial statement with the December to bring it to the meeting.
Well, we just,
And they're working on January, so we should be caught up soon.
okay. One other thing. I know you're going to be coming to the board and asking for $20 to $25,000 to do another study.
Right.
Would you explain now why we need to spend these monies to do these studies and what this next one would be for, so they know it before it happens?
Sure, and that was included in that allocation that I had into the operational funds. And there's two portions of the utilities, and one with the connection fee capital, that's one portion. What we want to look at is the actual rates that we're charging for our water and sewer. Right now, we are the lowest in the area. That's nice from one perspective, but when you have as much backlog of infrastructure and repair and replacement that you need, it's not anything to be proud of. And the rate study with a consultant is he would look at all our expenses, our chemicals, our trucks, these new positions that we've added, the new salaries we've added, and they would come up with the cost. What is the cost to operate the utility? The last time they did a rate case, here they basically, like golf, said, okay, we're going to raise the rate 5%. Well, if somebody challenged that rate, so what do you mean you're increasing my rate 5% based on what? Well, we thought it was a good idea, and that's what it is. But this is a professional rate consultant, and typically they're required, municipalities and local governments to have a formal rate study with all those expenses documented, and then they come up with the percentage and say, here's where your rate needs to be.
Knowing what we have, well, $2 million on the meters and the wastewater of 10 million.
Right.
Can't we, in my mind, it's obvious. I want to increase the water rates. I don't need somebody to tell me that we need to do that. But yet, I think you're telling me that we have to justify.
We're not required by law to justify, are we?
Well, if you get a challenge and someone says, how'd you come up with this rate? What professionals worked on it, what did it? I mean, that's one of the things I mentioned is the principal and interest for that $10 million would be incorporated into that rate. And the additional expenses we have would be incorporated into that rate. Any inflation factors, it's based on.
I told Chris how I thought we've done it in the past. And in the past, Omar, right or wrong, would go out and do a survey of what other people were charging. He'd bring us back a chart, and then we would make a decision based on that. What Chris is telling me is that if we were ever challenged on it legally, we would have a problem. And that the proper way to do it, the proper way to do it is to pay for a study to be done so you could justify what you do, what we do,
Right, and
which I didn't know anything. I had no idea.
yeah, and I have copies of rate presentations that have been done in other areas. And another thing, when you look at the meter cost, you know, we were going to cash flow that out of reserves, obviously, probably not going to go that route. I will be bringing forward during the budget options where we can finance it over 10 years for $120,000 a year, get all the meters in 1 year. So that would be put into that rate too, to pay for those meters.
Basically, what we're saying is if we want to increase the water and sewer rates or look at them and make changes without a study, we can't do it. And yet the budget process is 2 months away or a month and a half away. So we would have to do this study rather quickly to give us the flexibility of making changes if we want to.
And you're talking how much?
Right around $20,000 to $25,000. And I will say the city of Sebring just completed a rate study, and Avon Park also, they hired consultants to do that work.
I say I would not call it a requirement. Like we still have the ability to raise rates, but in my opinion, it's legally imperative that we do that because it's basically preventative. You know, we want to prevent any apparent arbitrariness in raising our rates. And so if we have a study that we can point back to, as opposed to waiting for a challenge, then having to obtain a study to show what we did was correct. So it's better to get the study
I would feel
done.
more comfortable going forward, doing it the right way.
Yeah, I would too, because I talked to David about it and Dave told me a couple months ago, the same thing, so.
Well, that's under the 25,000, so we can do it anyway. I don't have to move.
Yeah.
Motion to get it done.
Yes, sir. And I included that in the $500,000 operating allocation.
Oh, okay.
But you guys should know about it.
Yes.
With
Okay.
the facilities plan for utilities, that wasn't budgeted. We wanted to move forward. I took that out of some engineering money, because we had some extra money in utility engineering, but that's where that money would come from. It was included.
Just to let you guys know now, we'll have 3 studies going on that have run us about $70,000 to $75,000. One for the sewer plant, one for the stormwater plant, and then one for this, what we just discussed, the rates that we didn't have planned, but we're doing it the right way, which is a good thing.
And also, our intent on this rates too, is you can look at it and see what's paying for it and what percentage of that rate. So if you decide well, it's a little hard for me to stomach an increase like that. Typically it's done over 5 years. You can cut something and know what you're cutting, not just saying cut the rate. And also what we're looking for is to increase, is I have no intention of putting us in the top 40 percentile. I think we need to, if we're going to move, we move to the middle of the pack. And still on the lower side, not, hey, guess what? We're number 1. No intention.
Any other questions for Chris?
Makes sense.
Any public comments? Unfinished business? New business, which we already discussed. Discussion to and from the board. Anything?
I just have one thing is, have we contacted Dr. Deborah on the Monza speed bump?
Good point.
No, I have not followed. I'll get Bob to send her a note and send her a copy of the report.
Yeah, and we should maybe have it on the agenda next time to act on it, because I don't know the report. I don't, I was told that there was speeding going on and it was over what Bob had said, but I can't remember seeing the report even.
Yes, sir. And we did have those 2 reports at the last meeting, but I'll bring them back to you and put them in the board packet.
Just the Monza report, right? The Monza.
Yeah, it's on Monza. So,
Okay, so we'll see that again on March 4th.
Okay.
And that was a lot less troublesome than the one we just looked at in Matanzas, the actual violations. And what you typically find is like anything else, even like the dog park, 1 or 2% of the people are causing 90% of the problem.
I understand.
Anything else on board the board? I have one thing I wanted to bring up. I think we all got copies of this thing from Bob Butts. We got it actually, I guess, back January 25th about his concerns over the problems that they had, like in Placid Lakes with the builders coming in and doing inferior work. We don't have any control over who comes in and builds, correct? I mean, I'm trying to do.
Correct, yeah. We don't have any control over who comes and builds on private property.
And just correct me if I'm wrong, it is the counties, is it the county or the state who does the build, approving the build?
County does, yeah,
County.
it's county inspections for
Does
county
the
building
inspection.
department.
And they live by code, there's a code set up and so,
Correct.
so all these problems like that they had in Placid Lakes, which I have to admit were fixed, could happen here.
Yeah, I don't know specifically what problems you're talking about. I mean, if they were technically code violations or,
Yeah, I didn't get a copy of that. Of course, that doesn't surprise me, but I'm not familiar with what you're talking about.
I mean, they had some, I mean, all the problems were fixed. It was, it's more of like, looked like code violations that should have been caught by a building inspector.
yeah, I mean, we don't enforce county building codes.
Yeah,
The
we
county
don't,
does.
But we have specs that people have to follow, right? We can't go below 1,600 square foot for a home.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the extent of it. I mean, like I say, I mean, now if someone, that would be I guess the question is if the violations that we're talking about or someone was not complying with our codes, that's that becomes a problem, but that's something that we would have to have, some sort of notice of. We're not sending out people, to my knowledge, we're not sending out people to inspect, new construction, other than what gets submitted to us for our permitting process, which I think is just driveway permits.
Driveways and stormwater.
Driveways and stormwater is all we really deal with.
If the building inspector goes out, or when they approved, if somebody has to approve the building plans, right?
Correct.
County.
They're
That's
looking at our
county.
specs when they
Correct.
approve them, correct?
Yes, yeah, those are, yes, correct. Mhm. That's all part of county ordinance.
I think that answers it.
And I can say that, when Southern Homes was building a home there on Pebble Beach, I just happened to catch the guy there doing an inspection. And I talked to him about their meeting code.
Mhm.
He said, yes, but it's just, they do it to the bare minimum, just the minimum requirements, whatever that is. And then, until they cover it up, you can find a lot of things that majority of us would find exception to probably, but it meets code. And as long as it meets code,
Nothing we can do about it.
nothing you can do.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else, discussion to and from the board? All right, meeting adjourned.
Adjourned 11:41.